at the location that she went to in Tarrant County, and there's 12 or 13 Republican machines. Down in Lancaster, I've been told that they've had machines down all day, and ever since they've called first thing in the morning to get more machines, they finally did bring some at some point in time, but those machines were Republican machines, not Democratic machines. Listen, this may be a very close election, and it may hinge on who was allowed to vote or who wasn't allowed to vote in Dallas County. But I'm here to say, regardless as to whether or not it's close or not, this is wrong. If one person has the right to vote and they weren't allowed to cast their vote, we should all be standing together. Democrats, Republicans, and we should all be raising hell. But unfortunately, this was always the plan.
All right, just listening in there, Jasmine Crockett speaking alongside Colin Allred. Key primaries tonight there in Texas, including for Senate, as we were following it, the Republicans led by incumbent John Cornyn up against some key competitors, including the Attorney General Ken Paxton and Wesley Hunt. On the other side, it is Representative Jasmine Crockett up against State Representative James Talarico on the Democratic side. So it'll be interesting to see what two names are on the ballot for Texas Senate come November. I'm Andy Mack. You're on Live Now from Fox. A live look there in McAllen, Texas. Lines continue out the door with about 15 or so minutes until polls close. As we talk about with voting, if you're in line as polls close, you're likely able to still cast your ballot. I believe that's to be the case. A live picture in Harris County, the Houston area, as we will get an update from officials there talking about what to expect tonight for this key primary. I'm Andy Mack. We're back after this.
Does he exhibit characteristics? Is there a pattern that would lead you and your expertise to believe that he was an asset?
Well, there certainly is in the files, and I commend you for getting as much released as you can. I think they're all released. Hints of relationships with powerful foreign leaders, pictures, emails, meetings. He was clearly somebody who traded off information. He liked to collect it and he liked to use it. I don't know any more details than that. So he is certainly, I said earlier, the intelligence connections, the money connections, the crimes, those seem to me to be the three major elements of your investigation.
And obviously, as the last question for my question, he wanted to make the appearance in this and you've seen the emails that have been released, and I know you testified today that but he's implied to people that he was very close to the Clintons. He's implied that he was
about any further actions to take on trafficking to strengthen our response.
And that's one more question. We got one more question left, 2 minutes left. So, you obviously stated in your open statement that you were involved in human trafficking and that you tried to prevent that. With what you've seen in the files, what Epstein was doing with those girls, recruiting other girls to come in, does that meet the legal definition of human trafficking, or is it more prostitution? Because one of the things that we want to do at the end of this investigation, and I think Ms. Mays will play a big role in that, Ms. Simon and all the members of both parties hopefully, is trying to strengthen the human trafficking laws. And some people have suggested that based on what they've seen, maybe some of that wouldn't the government could prosecute human trafficking because it didn't meet the definition. Do you have anything to add?
Well, I don't know all the specifics at your disposal, but I've also read in some of the press that he was reporting women from other countries. And so I do think there's a distinction probably between what happened in the United States and also what he was doing in other countries. So I think, but really, Mr. Chairman, you have to study this and analyze it and then advise your other colleagues in the Congress, your colleagues in the administration about laws that need to be changed and have to strengthen and resources that should be corrected. Because at the end of the day, girls and women were abused, whether they were abused through solicitation of prostitution and the lies and the promises that were made to these young women. And that in itself is just despicable. But then a system that got close to customs agents, got close to local prosecutors. This man was a master manipulator, a con artist of the nth degree. And so anything you can do to try to understand the way he operated and how he really misled and duped so many people into thinking that he was intelligent and he was interesting and everything they say about him in their emails that have come out. So that would be a great public service to try to really understand this and to break it down into the different categories that you're looking at.
Hopefully we can do that in a bipartisan manner.
We'll go off the record. Thank you.
Then I want to direct your attention to these garage doors back here. These are the doors that will open once those ballots cast today arrive here to election headquarters to be counted. We're expecting the first batch of ballots to arrive sometime around 8:30. That's typically when they get here, around 8:30 at night. Once they get here, they're going to be brought over to this area of election headquarters. This section, we're told, is where the ballot counting actually happens. So you can see some election workers and volunteers kind of in place, ready to go for when that happens. It's going to be a long night. There are more than 280 polling locations across Harris County. Harris County is the largest county in Texas, and the third largest in the entire country. You can imagine it takes a lot of time for all the ballots to get here. Now we're going to stay out here and monitor everything for you. This is KG 11 from
Check, check, 1, 2, mic check, 1, 2, check, mic check, check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Check, 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 mic check, 1, 2, check, mic check. All right, cool.
All right, you're just listening in here as we are now monitoring this other major story here on LiveNOW from Fox, that being the Texas primaries underway right now. Polls just closed. You're looking live there in Harris County in Houston, Texas. All right, I'm Andy Mack now in the anchor chair. Thank you for joining us, and we appreciate your time because this is so very crucial, this race, to see who will be on the ticket come November for the Texas Senate. There are other races out there that we're getting into, but the two key races that I am talking about here on LiveNOW from Fox involving around that Republican race, see who's on the ticket, whether it be the incumbent, John Cornyn. You can see this here on LiveNOW from Fox, exactly what to see. Ken Paxton, the Attorney General, Wesley Hunt. Also interesting to note that if they do not get 50% of the vote, they will potentially go to a runoff to see who will go on that election. So we could be stretching into the month of May without knowing exactly who will be on the ticket for the Republicans. On the Democratic side, it's also a very heated race. Jasmine Crockett, the representative, against State Rep James Talarico, for Democrat on this, who will win tonight. Will set up a major showdown because Democrats obviously have not won in Texas and Lone Star State for quite some time. It would be setting up potentially for an upset there. So lots to get into in terms of this here on LiveNOW from Fox as we're monitoring this, a live picture out of Harris County in Texas. We'll take you out to any updates from officials on the ballots that are being counted. There is some concern over polling locations. They don't have joint county-wide primaries for Democrats and Republicans, so a little bit of concern there. We heard from Jasmine Crockett earlier talk about that. Let's take you right now from earlier here as we were watching unfold, Colin Allred, who almost threw his name in the hat for the Senate seat now as they are jockeying for position amongst that redistricting in Texas effort. He is now in a seat, a race against also an incumbent Democrat. So let's take you out to this, Colin Allred from a little bit ago, campaigning alongside Jasmine Crockett on LiveNOW.
What we're dealing with in Dallas County is part of a broader pattern of trying to disenfranchise black and brown voters across the state of Texas that began with the gerrymandering of our congressional districts. As Jasmine knows, our districts were redrawn at the command of the White House to try and eliminate the voices of communities like those here in North Texas. The district that I am running in right now, this newly drawn 33rd district, should not exist. A Trump-appointed judge said that it was a racial gerrymander, and yet here we are still running in these districts. Because the Dallas County Republican Party decided that they wanted to continue to restrict and make it more difficult for folks to vote. We have had chaos across our community here in North Texas, as folks have gone to their normal polling place and been turned away, told to go somewhere else. Working folks who only have a certain amount of time to drop off their kids, get to the job, do the things they have to do to take care of their family, are being redirected and oftentimes leading to confusion. This is outrageous. It's unacceptable. And we should all recognize what is happening here. That we've had hundreds of reports of voters turned away from their polling place. And as somebody who was a voting rights lawyer before I ever ran for Congress or served in office, and I know Jasmine knows this as well from her background in civil rights, that sometimes a new law can be worse than a bad law. When folks don't know what to expect, when they don't know where to go or who to turn to, we end up in a situation like this. So here's where things stand at this moment, and then I'll turn it over to Congresswoman Crockett. The polls have been extended in Dallas County until 9 p.m. I encourage every voter in Dallas County to get in line by 7 p.m. to make sure that your vote counts. Should you get in line after that, though, stay in line. Cast your provisional ballot, and we will make sure and do everything we can that your vote is one that counts. We have been given an opportunity thanks to a judge's order. I was ready to bring a lawsuit to try and extend this. Luckily, it was already done. to have a couple more hours to try and deal with this chaos. So to folks here in Dallas County, to my fellow North Texans, I say make sure that you find your polling place at dallascountyvotes.org. Look up your new polling place, again, at dallascountyvotes.org. And make sure, if you can, to be in line by 7, but if you don't, we'll still fight to make sure your vote is going to be counted. And we'll be there till 9 o'clock. We are in this fight not just for our elections, but for the right to vote in this state and the democracy that is at risk in this country. This is bigger than just what's happening in Dallas County or just the chaos that we've seen today. It is a pattern and one that we're going to fight against. Congressman Crockett.
Thank you so much. My heart is breaking. I've got people that are sending me emails. I have video recordings of voters that are crying and hurt. None of this should have happened. Let's talk about the many failures. Let's talk about what was intentional. Number one, the Republicans only did this to intentionally disenfranchise and confuse voters. That is number one. But number two, while many people were showing up to the polling locations, they were told things such as, you can't provide a provisional ballot. Now that is exactly when you would provide a provisional ballot. If you are saying, this is my polling location, and they're saying, no, it's not, you should, at a very minimum, be able to cast your provisional ballot. We have heard countless stories of people being told you can't. Then we hear stories of people saying, we're trying to go to dallascountyvotes.org, and the website keeps crashing. Then we're hearing stories of, if the website is up, it's giving us the wrong location to go to. So thank you to Cardall Coleman, who is the chair of the Democratic Party in Dallas County, because he, along with myself and Colin Allred, we all understood what should happen next, which was litigation. And so we were prepared and we were about to file when we received word that an order had been signed by Judge Stacey Williams. Judge Williams signed off on that order for Dallas County, but I want to be clear about this as someone who is running statewide, and frankly, as someone who is concerned that this will become the norm for the Republicans as they are understanding that Democrats are fed up right now, and right now Democrats are outvoting Republicans. They not only did this in Dallas County, they did it in Williamson County. Williamson County right now, from what I understand, has not been granted any relief. I am here to say that it is wrong for it to be done to anyone, a Democrat or a Republican. But the Republicans didn't even have enough sense or enough courage to go out there and try to get a court order on behalf of their constituents, the Republicans. So these hours are extended for the Democrats. Now, the other issue that we have heard all over happening today was that these voting machines, that they are down. I just received an email right before I walked up. It was actually out of Tarrant County, of a woman saying there was only one Democratic machine at the location that she went to in Tarrant County, and there's 12 or 13 Republican machines. Down in Lancaster, I've been told that they've had machines down all day, and ever since they've called first thing in the morning to get more machines, they finally did bring some at some point in time, but those machines were Republican machines, not Democratic machines. Listen, this may be a very close election, and it may hinge on who was allowed to vote or who wasn't allowed to vote in Dallas County. But I'm here to say, regardless as to whether or not it's close or not, this is wrong. If one person has the right to vote and they weren't allowed to cast their vote, we should all be standing together, Democrats, Republicans, and we should all be raising hell. But unfortunately, this was always the plan. And so I am grateful for this court order. And as Congressman Allred has already stated, we encourage each and every one of you to remain resilient. We cannot allow this type of behavior to be rewarded, because so long as they know that they can win, even if it means cheating, then they will continue to do it. So I am asking you, I am begging you to make sure that you go ahead and figure out where it is that you are supposed to vote, stand in line, wait in line, and if it means that I gotta come out there with you to wait with you, I will do that. And I promise you that going forward, especially as we go into November, we will make sure that this does not happen in the general election.
Any questions?
So the time is extended, but is the
All right, you're just listening in there to the representatives, Jasmine Crockett and Colin Allred, speak here on Live Now from Fox, as we are now getting some early results coming into our newsroom here on Live Now from Fox in this key primary involving, obviously, Democrats on one side, Republicans, to see who will ultimately end up on that ticket come November. I want to put up just some of these here on Live Now from Fox. The incumbent, John Cornyn, obviously the front runner, the favorite, but Ken Paxton, the Attorney General, a very big challenger right now in what we're seeing as we are just getting new results. The Associated Press helping out with some of these so far. And right now, John Cornyn with just a very slim amount of votes coming in so far. Let me see if I can see how many votes have come in so far. It doesn't really see 9%. AP is estimating right now of votes being counted in this race. John Cornyn with a sizable 9-point lead, 120,000 votes to just under 100,000. We're just seeing him now up to 11%, 122,000. So still a 9-point lead for John Cornyn. And interesting to know, Wesley Hunt is at 13%. So just to note, John Cornyn, 46% of the vote so far, 37 for Ken Paxton, 13%. So no one at that 50% clip as of yet. On the Democratic side, I do want to read out some of these. Jasmine Crockett and Representative from the State House, James Talarico. Right now, it is a slightly closer margin with just 9% of the votes counted. Jasmine Crockett with 113,000 votes, 53% to 45. So roughly an less than 8-point lead for Jasmine Crockett here just minutes after the polls closed. We heard some confusion about exactly what's unfolding with some of these polls and who is involved because they didn't have joint primaries, so some confusion about that. They're extending some times as well. So right now, at last check, what we're seeing, about 9 to 10% of the votes coming in. John Cornyn leading by 9 points. Jasmine Crockett leading by 8 points over James Talarico, and that is potentially what people expected, John Cornyn against Jasmine Crockett, but you never know come primary season what's about to unfold. All right, we're monitoring here also a couple live pictures. Harris County there in Texas, the Houston county that Houston resides in. They are potentially going to give an update. Also a live picture right now. Some of these watch parties for John Cornyn. He currently holds a lead very early into some of these results coming into our newsroom here on Live Now from Fox. Just about a 9-point lead so far. All right, let's continue on. We might have an update very soon. It looks like they are giving us a signal that Houston might be up very soon. You are looking live there on the ground in Harris County. They're tabulating the ballots. I don't know if exactly what we saw. It doesn't look like any of the vote has come in from the Houston area as of yet, but Dallas County, right around there, already getting some votes in. You can see them potentially setting up their microphones. So we're just going to sit here and hang out for a second as we await to see if they have any update on what's to come from Harris County. But a key race in this state house there of what we expect come November, who will be on the ticket. Again, these are the early results. I just want to read them out again for you here on Live Now from Fox. As I'm Andy Mack here in the anchor chair, just kind of guiding you through this, as this is also a main story. I know we're talking a lot about Iran right now in the main feed, but here on YouTube, we dive into the latest. Right now, Jasmine Crockett leads by about 8%, 8 points in this, and just under 10% of the vote so far in. On the Republican side, according to the Associated Press, a 9-point lead for John Cornyn right now at this point. So they're giving a mic check here at this event, so it should begin any moment here. There are going to be some updates. Let's listen into this here on Live Now from Fox.
Aren't we excited? There's still voters in line, but the clerk will be here in just a few minutes. She's right behind us. She's certifying those first ones. It's been an exciting day for sure, for sure. Been here since before 6:30, so it's been a long day. I might be a little delulu in a couple of hours, but that's fine, right? Democracy, we love it. We're here to serve the people. Yes? Thumbs up? All right. Thank you.
All right, you see there an enthusiastic member of this Harris County team talking about the clerk expected to walk up here any moment. Early results coming in for this Texas primary. John Cornyn leading on the Republican side, Jasmine Crockett so far on the Democratic side. But it's just about 9% of the votes counted, 11% of the votes counted for these two key primaries. There are other races going on. We heard from Colin Allred as there's a reshuffling in this redistricting effort from Republicans on in the Lone Star State. So interesting to note how Colin Allred up against an incumbent, a fellow Democrat, Julie Johnson, in that race around that district near the Dallas, Texas area. So hopefully we'll have an update here very soon of what's to come. But early results coming in here on Live Now from Fox of this Texas Senate primary. So obviously very, very important. I'm going to pull up some of our Fox 4 information because they were all right, so we do have some numbers coming in here on Live Now from Fox. I'm going to play them out because this is obviously very key as we wait Harris County to get some updates. So I want to put them up here on Live Now from Fox of what we're seeing so far. You can see really interesting so far. 46 points, 46% for John Cornyn, 38 for Ken Paxton. I'm just going to take a little bit of a screenshot of this so I have it in my system. Also, my producer, Caleb, if you can switch it to the other one, we can talk about the Democrats as well. Kind of just doing this a little bit on the side because this is important. We want to make sure we bring it to your audience. But John Cornyn right now leading by about 8 or 9 points over Ken Paxton. That margin just 22,000 votes. Wesley Hunt has 35,000, so that 13% will be a very important factor because you have to get 60 to get on the ballot come November. All right, right now, those are the early results coming in right now. John Cornyn, the incumbent senator, leading over Attorney General Ken Paxton. So we're watching this monitor here on Live Now from Fox. We're also seeing the Harris County clerk step up to the podium. Let's listen in to this live.
If you all could give me a thumbs up, let me know that you can hear me well. Testing 1, 2, 3. Zach's in the house. What's going on, Zach? Testing 1, 2, 3. If I get some thumbs up, so I can see everybody. Good. Good evening. I'm Tanisha Hudspeth, Harris County Clerk. That's TENESHIA HUDSPETH. Tanisha Hudspeth. Welcome to Harris County Election Headquarters, and thank you for joining us this evening. The polls closed at 7 p.m., though several vote centers are still qualifying voters who were in line by 7 p.m. At this time, we are releasing the unofficial early voting and vote by mail totals. Approximately over 340,000 in-person and mail ballots. By the end of the night, we project that this will be the first midterm primary election in which we surpass a combined 500,000 voters across early voting and election day. Turnout at this level is typically only seen during presidential primaries. Unofficial results will continue to be posted throughout the evening at harrisvotes.com. Most likely, every hour and half hour, we are currently awaiting the return of equipment and official paperwork after election judges complete closing procedures at the more than 280 vote centers across Harris County. I say that lightly. There are many vote centers across the county that are still voting voters and will continue to do so for every voter that was in line by 7 o'clock p.m. Because we must tabulate two separate reports simultaneously, results will take slightly longer to process. So remember, there is the Democratic primary and the Republican primary, two elections taking place simultaneously. We will continue working through the night to complete all required procedures, ensure every vote is counted and verified, and meet the state's 24-hour reporting deadline. Overall, it's been a good election day in Harris County. Our call center has received approximately 1,200 calls. Most of them had to do with vote centers with procedural questions. That means election judges, election workers, getting those questions in, getting support and assistance throughout the day. Our other calls were from voters. Where do I vote? What's on my ballot? Many of those questions included, why am I in a new congressional district? I don't remember this. I didn't know about redistricting. I've been in a congressional district for so long. So many voters questioning their ballots and their new districts, including why do I have to choose a political party to vote in? So reaffirming and re-educating voters on how primaries work in the state of Texas, and that you do have to choose a political party in the primary, unlike November, although you don't have to register by party in Texas. I want to close by thanking all of our election workers, thousands of election judges, clerks, and every staff member and volunteer who helps keep Harris County elections safe, accessible, and transparent. I would be remiss if I left out our county commissioners and our county judge, along with many stakeholders in Harris County government that supports this operation. If there is a runoff, that election will be held Tuesday, May 26. If there is a runoff, which I suspect there will be on both sides of the political aisles, that election will be held Tuesday, May 26, 2026. Again, results should be online at harrisvotes.com. You can see the individual reports by party and the turnout a little bit as of 7:12 p.m. So again, the reports you're seeing right now online is all those who chose to vote early in person during those 11 days of early voting and cast their ballots by mail during that time frame. As of 7:12 today, a total of 201,000, over a total of 201,000 have voted election day. But remember, voters are still in line. So we are going to continue to give those updates and those counts for Election Day. You will see those results once those vote centers break down, get their paperwork done, and report in to our regional collection sites, which ultimately will come here to election headquarters. So as of now, over 201,000 voters have voted today on Election Day. Of that 201,000, over 130,000 were Democrats. So out of the 201,000, over 130,000 were Democrats and over 70,000 were Republicans. Again, this number is fluid because we have many vote centers still reporting. Are there any questions at this time? So the count throughout the night and meeting that 24-hour deadline never stops. There's no going home, taking a nap, and coming back. As you can see behind me, we have a robust team of staff, not only here at election headquarters, but around this county right now. And so we will all continue to work. I have no doubt that we would meet that deadline. We met the deadline in 2024 presidential and every other single election that I have run. And so essentially, I have my cot upstairs in my office. If I have to take a break, I will, and I'll come right back to it. But we will continue counting, and we will meet that deadline. Thank you for that question. Yes, thank you for that question in regards to critical safeguards in elections and what essentially happens. A brief summary, because it's a lot of steps between election vote centers and coming in. So at the end, once every voter has voted at every single poll, the first thing that the election workers begin to do is gather all their paperwork for today. That's many forms and documents, and they begin to shut down many pieces of the equipment that have to be brought into reporting. Every single vote center is given a regional collection site that's within a certain proximity of their election vote center. So there's about 5 total, one being here at election headquarters and several others in other regions of Harris County. So it takes the vote centers an average of 2 hours for the shutdown process before they leave the building. Voters should know that there's no one pushing a button at a vote center to send results, right? By law, you cannot do that. It all has to be tabulated at our central headquarters here at our central headquarters that we're standing in now. And so once they finish that paperwork, they shut everything down. The presiding judge and typically the alternate judge both go together to that vote center or follow each other to that regional collection site once they leave the vote center. And there is where our full-time staff members and many volunteers are handling checks and balances. They're opening their trunks, they're opening their cars, and our team members are going to check every single checklist item off. And the judge must sign that we have received all items, including the drives that have to be read before they leave the site. If for any reason they don't have that, again, what I say they have before they can leave, that means all the paperwork is set out, the machines, documentation, and before they leave that vote center, we are sure that we have those items. If we don't, we send someone to go to that vote center with those election workers. So those are many different aspects of what's happening. Once that paperwork is done at a regional collection site, then here at headquarters is where we receive the final drives and the actual results are read and put out here from election headquarters. I gave you a summary and that seemed long, but trust me, there are many more steps to that than you can imagine. So we all should be very thankful to the election workers in the field. They have worked over 12 to 16 hours. Some worked all of early voting and election day. And then to get to this last part of the day after voting voters all day, finishing that paperwork, getting everything in. And, you know, I'm sure you all will be able to get some B-roll of what's going on at this regional collection site here. We have law enforcement partners here making sure that everything is safe as it comes into the center here and at our regional collection site. So a lot of members of the public, the community, and county employees help to cover this massive operation here in Harris County. Yeah, so in terms of discrepancies, the only thing that could come up in that process is spending more time at a vote center, right? And really, I wouldn't call that a discrepancy. It's a part of the logistical process that can be very demanding. So if for some reason we see that election workers are at a vote center for a longer period of time and they're sort of stuck, we have either trainers or technical individuals that go to those sites to help them with the shutdown process. It could be a litany of things, right, that come up, needing some help. I'm tired at the end of the day. Can you send someone here? And then if they get to their regional collection site where we're going through those boxes and those items and something for some reason has been left at the vote center or left behind, then we don't leave any stone unturned until we have all items in-house and here at the election headquarters before the night closes. That's a part of the 24 count and making sure that every single item is taken care of. You should also know another big part of this operation is the political parties. They not only appoint individuals to work the election polls, but they appoint individuals to work here at headquarters. So immediately here to this side, you'll see our central count center or station where the results are being read. Members of the Democratic and Republican Party are here reviewing all those numbers before they go out to the public. And so our ballot by mail, we have Democrats and Republicans alike reviewing the ballot applications and signatures. So there are a lot of checks and balances. And we also have the Secretary of State here to observe the work that we are doing. And we work together as a partner, although I am the chief election official of Harris County. So those are some of the elements. I don't necessarily call them discrepancies unless an election worker leaves and go get Whataburger before reporting to us, which could happen. But we do encourage them to get here in a timely manner.
Have there been any issues with voting today, like machines not working or something like ballots that weren't voting?
Yeah, I am happy to report there was more than enough paper and enough at all of the voting centers. So that is definitely not news. In terms of the equipment, every now and then you're going to get a machine that has a technical issue. But we had a robust amount of about 200 techs in the field that were able to address anything that came up within a certain time frame. Many of our vote centers also had full-time trainers at their sites for support there, as well as some of our recruitment team. So we've grown pretty big where we've trained a lot of folks to help out our election workers. Yes, are we going to have, hey, we've got a concern with the scan. Does this need to be replaced? We have those, but nothing that has impeded the voting process. All voters, I just said, over 200,000 people have voted today. Over 340,000 have voted during early voting. And so we're proud of the work that our team has done over the month, well, several months, almost a year to prepare for today. All right, so just a couple of things. On Harris Votes right now, you can find the unofficial results. All those who voted early in person, applaud yourselves because your results are coming in now, as well as those who have voted by mail and returned their mail ballots. Throughout the night, we will continue to provide numbers as we receive them for vote centers, but please, pack your patience because it is going to take some time to get all of the boxes in, go through our compliance measures, and report those numbers. There are two reports, one for the Democratic Party, one for the Republican Party, and we will continue through that throughout the night. Thank you. I'm Tanisha Hudspeth, your county clerk, and I look forward to providing more updates tonight. Thank you.
All right, you're just listening in there. Harris County Clerk providing an update on what's unfolding there in that county. So very pivotal. Talk about the nature in which there are so many people, so many ballots coming in. She said she has a cot in her office that she's going to potentially sleep on as the ballots roll in. We are already seeing these early results so far, and the key race we're keeping our eye on is that Texas Senate bid. As we are hearing right now, John Cornyn, the incumbent in charge of this race, up 8 points over Ken Paxton right now there in Texas. On the other side, the Democrats, it is Jasmine Crockett up by 11 points right now over James Talarico. This just with about 12% or so of the votes being counted right there in the Lone Star State. So we're monitoring it here on Live Now from Fox of any updates. We are also expecting to hear from Texas Governor Greg Abbott. He also is going to be on the ballot come November, seeking yet another term in office. A live picture right there. You can see the Texas state flag behind it. All right, you can just see there for Governor Greg Abbott, obviously the only really man on the ticket come November, so it's almost assuredly he will be the next governor again, running again. We talked about his bid a little bit ago, so very interesting here on Live Now from Fox as we are watching it unfold. Two very key races, though. Texas Senate for is it John Cornyn, Ken Paxton? Will they have enough votes? 50% is the qualifying mark to not have a runoff that will span into the month of May. But for the time being, we're just watching and waiting. Ken Paxton, others likely to try to put up quite a fight in the Lone Star State. All right, the early results are coming into our newsroom as we await Governor Greg Abbott right now. I believe we do have yet another update on exactly some of these numbers that I do want to get you to as early results coming in. Just right now, between 10 and 20% of the vote being counted. The Associated Press doing a great job kind of tallying these for us. You can see right now 16% of the vote in John Cornyn, up by just 6 points, 167,000 votes, 145,000, so just about 22,000 between the two. Also, I also want to put up this here on Live Now from Fox of the other side of the aisle, that being Jasmine Crockett against James Talarico. And this race has also narrowed. Jasmine Crockett up just 5 points over James Talarico, 52 to 47. So just about 15,000 votes or so, with about 14% of the estimated vote counted. And we do know that there might be a little bit of a late night, as there was concern over voters getting to the polls, as they didn't have unified primaries between Democrats and Republicans. I believe it was Dallas County that said they are extending some of these hours into the evening. So just two key races that we're keeping our eye on there, and we're also monitoring other shots. I believe this is in McAllen, Texas, a live picture right now on the ground. People still in line to cast their ballot in this primary. I'm not sure how long this weaves around the building or exactly what building this might be, but early results coming in now for the time being. Let's take you back out, though, to other comments from here on Live Now from Fox, from Colin Allred, from Jasmine Crockett, talking a little bit earlier in Dallas, Texas, about this key race for Senate. Colin Allred, the representative, amid the reshuffling, the redistricting in Texas, trying to move on from Julie Johnson, that incumbent in that race. He's trying to supplant her. Let's take you out to these comments from earlier.
We know that a voter turned away is likely someone who does not vote that day. And there's a lot of reasons for it. It can be frustration, it can be their schedules. And so a lot of damage has been done. But I agree with Congresswoman Crockett that our message, I think, to folks is that your vote is so powerful, they're trying to take it away. Don't let them. And stand in line if you need to. We'll be there with you. We'll fight as we were fighting in court to get these hours extended. And this is an opportunity now that if you did miss that window, perhaps this morning when you were going to do your drive to work voting, that now you can go maybe this evening. I've got young kids. I understand how difficult that is. But our message to folks is this is an opportunity for us, at least in Dallas County, for Democrats in Dallas County, to have a couple of extra hours to try and do what we can to rectify this, and to take this as an example of a fight that we have to have for November, because we cannot have a repeat of this.
Do you guys by chance know when the last time Dallas County had to extend voting hours by?
Yeah. We've had it happen before, often because of machines or running out of ballots. In fact, the election administration, for me, when I used to work in this, was often the most frustrating part. And this is, I think, also intentional, that we don't put enough state resources into running our elections. We don't have enough translators at polling sites. We don't have enough Spanish language ballots or other language ballots at polling sites. We make it difficult for voters with disabilities to vote. And I think a lot of this is intentional. So this is not without precedent that we've had to have an extension of the polling hours. I don't remember it being done because of one party's decision to throw this into chaos like this, though.
Congressman Crockett, your district obviously spans a lot of Dallas County, important patient support for you. If turnout turns out to be quite low in this district, do you still respect the results of the primary today?
I don't know what you mean by respect the results. I definitely don't plan to engage in a January 6th, if that is what you're talking about. You know, listen, if it is clear that this is a very close race and potentially this race was impacted directly by this, I'll be disappointed. But curing this issue after the fact is almost impossible, which is why, you know, as trained lawyers, we were like, it can't just be enough that we say, well, this is a problem and just stand there. I mean, when you're looking for leadership, you need people that have skill sets that understand the importance of what's happening in that moment. And that is why it was a matter of, okay, if we need to file this litigation ourselves, because time was ticking. If you file after the polls are closed, it's too late. So, you know, this was filed in a timely fashion We have been waiting, we have been getting stories, we have been collecting evidence, because those are the things that you may need, especially if you have some pushback that is coming your way. But at the end of the day, there is no way to cure it after the fact. And so ultimately, would I be disappointed if for some reason it seems like this was a very close race and a lot of people that I would assume were supportive of me were disallowed? Absolutely. I can tell you that we have no idea how many people are being turned away. But as I was at Oaklawn, I can tell you that as at least in the time that there were observers there from the media, it was basically 1-to-1. One person goes in, they vote, one person comes out, they're not allowed to vote. That is significant. I mean, right now, I think we are close to 90,000 votes or so that have been cast at the last reporting. Just imagine if in the entire county, we've had 1-to-1 be turned away. That's 90,000 votes. I mean, we're talking about significant numbers. So it is my hope that, you know, I'm liked somewhere other than Dallas County. But it's also my hope that going forward, we can recognize the fractures in what took place and we can prevent them on the front end. One of the things that is so frustrating for me is that we tend to be more reactive than proactive. And so I'm happy that the party got to this right before us because we were about to hit that file button. But I'm still very hopeful. I have traveled this state. I have talked to people both in Dallas County and otherwise. And I am just frustrated both for the people in Williamson County as well as Dallas County, because they are entitled to cast their vote for whomever it is that they feel like should be representing them.
And we have time for 2 more questions, so if you haven't asked a question, please ask one right now.
Has this ever happened before where we have the parties doing separate elections like this in this district or any district in Texas?
The way to do
Yeah. Go ahead.
What I'll say is that, I mean, our primaries are always separate, right? They are, I mean, we have closed primaries, so you choose Democrat or Republican. What was different was the amount of influence that the Republicans were allowed to have over our primary. I was pretty frustrated when this first came about because I said, if y'all want your voters to do that, great. But that shouldn't impact Democratic voters. And so they did it more so to impact us. They didn't really care about what was going on their side. So I think that that's really what's new. Having issues with the administration of the election, we've seen that far too often.
So the claim, though, here from Alan West, the chair of the Dallas GOP party, was that this was to prevent voter fraud. That's outrageous. All this has done is create chaos both for our voters and for theirs. And it's anti-democratic. We have a long history of this in our state, though, whether it's this or even going back to our issues with having full inclusion in primaries at all within this state. This is to me, another step in a long line of trying to make it more difficult to vote and gaming with primaries. And I've seen this over the course of our history in our state.
Congresswoman, you said that one of your frustrations with the Democratic Party is being reactive, not proactive. So what would you do for the general election to ensure this doesn't happen?
Yeah, and that was just a general statement, just to be clear. Because obviously our Democratic Party chair got this done before the close of the polls. So I just want to clarify that. I do think that going into November, we have to take stock of exactly what's happened in our primary. I think that we also need to think about the warnings that have been issued by this administration. They've talked about federalizing the elections. They've talked about an executive order. They've talked about sending ICE out to polling locations to intimidate people. So I do think that we are going to have to link arms with our civil rights organizations, ACLU, NAACP, LULAC, Democracy Forward, and so forth. And we are going to have to get court orders before we even get to voting about what is and is not allowed at the polling locations in this state. I also think that from a DC standpoint, we need to go ahead and apply pressure as it relates to making sure that that SAVE Act does not go forward. That was another point of confusion that the Republicans injected, because all the headlines that came from y'all, God bless you, were the SAVE Act passed. Now, if you don't read the entire article, then you may believe that it actually passed into law, when instead it passed the House. It hasn't passed the Senate. So we were still even having to explain to people that's not currently the law of the land. So I do think that Democrats need to be working from now until November to, number one, make sure that there's pressure applied so that it doesn't become the law of the land right before the next election. And so we need to educate both our voters as well as theirs about the harm in such litigation or legislation. I also think that we need to go ahead and see if even in the minority, we can move forward with legislation that is pro-democracy legislation. I know a lot of people look at DC and they say the Democrats are in the minority, and we are. But in the minority, we were able to get the Epstein Transparency Act passed. That was because of outside pressure that was applied by the people. So I think that we need to do that work now and try to drum up as much, as many people to get involved in this process so that hopefully we can, even in the minority, get something that looks like real democracy.
Real quickly, if I may, yes, thank you. You mentioned that some voters coming today had to fill out a provisional ballot for the change location. Do you have anything you want to say to them about what that process is going to be like and how to make sure or find out if their vote gets counted?
Yeah, so folks should know that there is a process for curing a provisional ballot. And it's difficult when it's done
just
in this
listening
manner.
there to this here on Live Now from Fox from Texas, as we're monitoring the latest in that key primary, but also keeping our eye right now on other primaries, including in North Carolina. Michael Whatley, the former co-chair there of the RNC, winning his primary rather easily, speaking early in the evening. Let's listen into this here on Live Now.
Changed our country, and I am proud to stand with him in the fight to secure our border, to strengthen our economy, and put America first. You know, I grew up in Blowing Rock. My mom was a librarian, my dad was an accountant. I went to school, I went to church, I played sports, and I worked. I was able to pay my own way through college, through graduate school, and law school. After school, I met Suzanne, and we started an amazing family and built an incredible career. In short, I have lived the American dream right here in North Carolina. And I announced my campaign for the United States Senate because North Carolina is home, and because I want every child to have the same opportunities that I've had, to grow up, to get an education, to create a career, get married, and raise a family in safety and security. Tonight is an important night. Republican voters from across the state are united because the stakes for North Carolina are too high to stay divided. And tonight, we begin the next chapter of this campaign together. Because this election is bigger than a primary. This election is a choice. A choice between leadership that stands with working families or a choice for career politicians who prioritize radical special interests from California and New York. A choice between safer communities or politicians who protect criminals and illegal aliens to appease radical left-wing groups. A choice between supporting the men and women in uniform who protect our interests and allies around the world, or politicians who vote to deny essential military funding, leaving America weak. A choice between a conservative champion for North Carolina, who will be an ally for President Trump in the Senate, or a champion for the failed policies of the left. You know, for 8 years, Roy Cooper had a choice. Stand with law-abiding families or give in to the radical left. And for 8 years, Roy Cooper sided with the radical left. It was Roy Cooper who marched with Antifa and BLM while our cities were burning in 2020. It was Roy Cooper who signed an executive order forcing cashless bail and pretrial release into our criminal justice system, creating a revolving door that put violent criminals back on the streets again and again and again. And it was Roy Cooper who released more than 4,000 prisoners, including pedophiles, rapists, and murderers, back into our communities. Among those on Cooper's list were 51 inmates serving life sentences, and DeCarlos Brown Jr., who went on to murder Irina Zarotska right here in Charlotte. Law enforcement warned against it. Families worried about their safety. And Roy Cooper did it anyway. Roy Cooper sided with criminals, and North Carolina communities have paid the price. I stand with North Carolina families, and I will always back the blue. North Carolina families know that a secure border means safer communities. Joe Biden opened our borders to the worst of the worst from around the world. More than 15 million illegal immigrants flooded into our country, bringing drugs, migrant crime, and sex trafficking on a scale never before seen in the history of our country. Illegal drugs and criminals don't stay at the southern border. They reach our towns and neighborhoods. And every state, including North Carolina, is now a border state. Roy Cooper vetoed efforts to ensure cooperation with immigration enforcement here at home, letting drugs and illegal immigrants flood into our communities. He tied the hands of our police. Thankfully, President Trump has secured our border. Not one illegal alien has been admitted into the United States in 9 straight months. And migrant crime and drug deaths are down across the country. Roy Cooper chose criminal illegal aliens over North Carolina communities. I will stand with President Trump to finish the job, secure the border permanently, and ensure that illegal aliens are swiftly deported. This election is also about our government and who it works for, working families or political insiders. Under Roy Cooper's leadership, health care costs rose to the highest in the nation, and families felt squeezed by higher prices and higher bills. Those policies didn't hurt career politicians. They hurt workers trying to raise their families and build a future. As a state legislator, Roy Cooper voted for tax hikes. As a governor, he vetoed tax cuts. He proudly declared that he would have voted against extending Trump's middle-class tax cuts and eliminating taxes on overtime, tips, and Social Security. Roy Cooper has never seen a dollar that he didn't want to tax and spend. I've never seen a tax I didn't want to cut. Roy Cooper will always support more regulation, more taxes, higher health care costs, and inflationary spending. I will fight for more jobs, bigger paychecks, and lower costs. And in the Senate, I will aggressively push for tax policies, regulatory policies, and trade policies, which will strengthen our manufacturers, small businesses, and farmers. Tonight, North Carolina did not just choose a nominee. You chose a direction. A campaign built on safe communities, strong families, economic opportunity, and putting North Carolina first. I will work every day to earn the trust of every North Carolinian who wants safer streets, affordable living, and a stronger future. Tonight is not the end of a campaign. Tonight is the beginning of a movement. A movement to restore common sense leadership. A movement to stand with working families instead of criminals. A movement to make North Carolina safer, stronger, and more affordable. Our state's best days are still ahead, and together, we're going to win in November. So thank you. God bless you, and God bless the great state of North Carolina.
As that was Michael Whatley, the former RNC chair of the Republican National convention chair as he was speaking. And now you see popping up right here on your screen, that being Roy Cooper, the former governor, the Democratic nominee heading into November, now speaking. This was a swift primary. Let's listen into what he has to say here on Live Now.
I'm running because I love North Carolina, and things just should not be this hard for the people who live here. It is time for a change. Now, you know, I didn't plan to go to Washington. All of my public service has been here in North Carolina because this is where I wanted to serve, right here at home. But these are not ordinary times. Everyday people are being left behind. And we see the chaos that's coming out of Washington only making it worse. The cost of groceries, child care, utilities, rent, health care, skyrocketing. Just overnight, we saw the price of gas spike. Yet another burden on working families. Meanwhile, the D.C. insiders are making sure that the wealthiest among us are getting further ahead, all at your expense, and it's not right. I knew that I needed to run for this Senate seat because Washington, D.C. is broken, and North Carolinians are struggling because of it. As I thought about running, on Sundays I would sit in church, and I kept coming back to a passage in the book of Luke. To whom much is given, much is required. A lot has been given to me. A lot's been required. I thought about my life growing up in eastern North Carolina, my public school teacher mom, my hard-working dad, my work on the farm every summer until I went to college, the amazing public school education that I got in Nash County, my Sunday school classes that I taught for decades, and most importantly, my wonderful wife and my 3 fantastic daughters. Boy, have I been blessed. And it was amazing to wake up every morning for years and lead the state that I love, both as Attorney General and your governor. I'm proud of what we accomplished together. Not only better jobs and more health care, but investments in teacher pay, child care, early childhood education, prosecuting violent criminals, taking on child predators, and keeping communities safe. And of course, after years of fighting for it, making health care more affordable for hundreds of thousands of working North Carolinians by expanding Medicaid. But now, a new challenge awaits. I'll take that same problem solving to Washington that I used here in North Carolina to focus on what matters. My opponent, who just won his primary tonight, is an out-of-touch D.C. insider and big oil lobbyist who's only looking out for himself and his well-connected friends in Washington. He has pushed schemes that raise health care costs, make communities less safe, and make life harder and more expensive for working families. How out of touch is Michael Whatley? While your costs go up, Michael Whatley says prices are down. When your local law enforcement needs more funding to make communities safe, Michael Whatley supports DOGE cuts that take money away from them. When you wish you could afford your health care premium, Michael Whatley celebrates a bill that makes it cost even more. It's dead wrong, and it's got to change. Let me tell you who I'll be. I'll be a strong, independent senator who will work with this president when I can and stand up to him when the people need me to. I will always, always put the people of North Carolina first, before politics, before party. The people of North Carolina will be my total focus as I serve in the United States Senate. I work with anyone, anywhere, from any party to help make our state better and to make stuff cost less. Because, really, what's the point of holding office if you aren't focused every day on how to get something done for the working people who need it. There is no doubt about it. We have a long and difficult road ahead. But even during these tough times, those of you who know me know this is true, I am filled with hope. We have a real opportunity here to return our government in Washington to the people where it belongs. Together, with the help of everybody here and those watching at home, we will lower costs for working families and win this seat in the United States Senate. God bless our great state and our great country. Thank you very much.
In there, Roy Cooper wrapping up his victory speech as he will be the Democratic nominee for Senate in that state of North Carolina, trying to replace Tom Tillis, trying to move that seat from red to blue. He also mentioned his opponent, Michael Whatley, the former RNC chair by name, as they will be on the ticket come November. It's going to be a very heated battle there in North Carolina. All right, I'm Andy Mack here on Live Now from Fox. I do want to provide some updates on what we're watching right now out of Texas in that key Senate primary. I want to put up this here from the Republican side of the aisle. John Cornyn right now leading by just 5 points over Ken Paxton, some 260,000 votes, 234,000 votes. Wesley Hunt in third place. It is a consequential 14% right now, because if neither of Paxton nor Cornyn get to 50%, there will be a runoff come May. So also a little bit of surprise note on the Democratic side. Right now, James Talarico taking the lead as early results coming in. 5-point swing for him, 440,000 votes, 394,000 votes for Jasmine Crockett, the representative there. All right, let's continue on. Take you right now out to our Fox 4 team, Fox 4 Dallas, as they are diving into the latest here on Live Now from Fox. I believe they have some of their experts, their reporters on the ground. Let's listen into their live coverage here on Live Now.
In their respective primaries for a long time, so none of this is surprising. I think they've been treated as the, de facto nominees for a while now.
Hinojosa was in church with me on Sunday, actually, at Concord. I was talking to some people, and they were saying, our boss, people aren't talking about the governor's race. Like, it's really just not a thing.
Well, it hasn't been a thing because what's taken up all the political attention has been the Senate race, right? Democrat and Republican. But I think as we get past May 26th, past this runoff date, that this race will begin to come into focus. Now, Hinojosa, young Latino attorney, experience, best chance to get new voters and drum up enthusiasm. But she's talking about going up against Greg Abbott and his war chest, and we don't know where we are in the state yet. We'll see where we are in the state after this primary election.
So, Patrick, I'm seeing something kind of on X at the moment that the polling hours have been extended down in El Paso as well because of some issues that have been reported down there. Have you been able to find any information out on that?
I personally have not. I know that we have folks here in the Texas Tribune newsroom where I'm stationed tonight who are looking into all these voting issues and trying to stay on top of it. Obviously, we previously discussed the polling hours being extended in Dallas County until 9 o'clock, and that's going to be, very important because that pushes back the release of those results, and that's a crucial county for Jasmine Crockett, the Democratic primary for U.S. Senate.
Patrick, I know we are bouncing around the state on you. I know you recently tweeted
That's
about.
Fine. Keep it coming.
I know you recently tweeted about Texas 18. I have been looking at this race. I think this may be the race where you see a change in generation shift. The early vote is in. Christian Menefee at first was down, but now he's leading in this race. Is that one of those races that stands out to you, at least on the Democratic primary side?
Yeah, you have a number of big political themes coming to a head in this primary. You obviously have the generational contrast between Al Green and Christian Menefee, who's a younger Democrat in this race. Al Green is a veteran incumbent. You also have the theme of redistricting, which forced these two men into a kind of like an incumbent on incumbent battle. And Menefee is benefiting from the fact that he just recently recently was campaigning in a large part of this new district while running for a special election for a separately numbered seat. And then you also, I'll add too, you have the influence of the cryptocurrency industry, which decided a few weeks ago to go in big for Christian Menefee and spend, I think it was at least $1.5 million to beat Al Green. And so there's a lot of big statewide and national political narratives swirling in this primary right now.
So we're seeing some strong early voting numbers for in Tarrant County for John Cornyn, 46.5%, Ken Paxton 37.5%, Wesley Hunt 13% with almost 91,000 votes recorded. Even better for Cornyn in Dallas County, apparently 52.7% for Cornyn, 31.4% for Paxton, and 12.5% for Hunt. What do you make of those trends that we're seeing with those early voting tallies?
And Patrick, before you answer that, I also saw the early vote count in Collin County, which is Ken Paxton's home county. Cornyn led in the early vote of that too. I just want to throw that in.
Yeah, I was reluctant to say this the last time I joined you guys because it was so early, but I do feel a little more confident saying now that I believe that Cornyn is beating expectations right now as of this moment. The fact that he beat Paxton in early vote in Paxton's home county of Collin County, the fact that in some of these other populous big city counties, Cornyn is up in the 40% plus range. I think, if you're John Cornyn's campaign, you're still preparing for a runoff, but you're maybe breathing a little easier about the possibility of finishing first in that run, in the run up to that runoff.
And that's important, really, to go into a runoff first with that momentum, isn't it, Patrick?
Yeah, absolutely. As I think I told you guys earlier, the worst place to be as a Republican incumbent in Texas is in a primary runoff, and an even worse place to be is in second place heading into that runoff. You've lost all momentum. It's hard to make the case to donors that you can still win. The other candidate is able to, new doors open for the other candidate in terms of grassroots supporters, elected official supporters, donors, and so Cornyn really wants to avoid an underwhelming finish, especially a second place finish going into a runoff.
And then Patrick, staying with this race, a lot of people are going to start asking, let's say the night ends with, of course, it going to a runoff, but Cornyn leading. I think that's going to put a ton of pressure on President Trump to go ahead and endorse Cornyn in this runoff. Would you agree?
I agree wholeheartedly. Say for example, Cornyn finishes this night in the mid to high 40s, and Paxton is several points behind him, maybe in the low 40s or high 30s. I think a scenario like that would, just based on my reporting of this race, from the beginning, I think a scenario like that would put a lot of pressure on Trump to come off the sidelines and endorse Cornyn heading into the runoff.
We're just talking about the dough that's been spent on all of this. John Cornyn has spent about $6.8 million on this. Ken Paxton has spent about $1.9 million, somewhere in there. Wesley Hunt spending about $4.1 million, similar to what we're seeing with the race between Jasmine Crockett and those contenders. Lots and lots of money is being funneled into these contests.
Yeah, absolutely. And something I've been telling a lot of people tonight that stood out to me about the fundraising, particularly in the Democratic primary for U.S. Senate, is just how much James Talarico and his affiliated super PAC have been able to outraise and outspend Jasmine Crockett. Now, of course, Crockett got in the race roughly 3 months after Talarico did. He had a big head start, but usually it's tough as a state lawmaker to step into a federal statewide race, your first federal statewide race, and raise and spend this amount of money that Talarico and the super PAC supporting him have been able to raise and spend. And so I think the financial disparity on the Democratic side is a bit of a bigger story here. On the Republican side, look, the big money was always going to be with Cornyn. Cornyn and the group supporting him were always going to just totally outpace all his opponents in, in fundraising and spending. That is almost always how it works when you're an incumbent facing a competitive primary challenge. I think the financial story on the Democratic side is much more notable, especially considering the fact that Crockett entered this race with a bigger national profile, a higher name ID, and also a proven track record of federal fundraising. I mean, she was able to raise significant amounts of money quarter to quarter just as a sitting member of the House before she was even a Senate candidate. And so the fact that Talarico was able to financially overpower her in this primary, I think, is especially notable.
Wow, and the numbers are interesting at the moment.
Patrick Svitek, man, I want to thank you for taking some time out of your busy day. I know you are covering all of these races, and so we look forward to hearing from you in the future. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks. Try to get some rest tonight, guys.
All right. Thanks, Patrick.
All right, just listening in there
guys,
to this update from our Fox 14, breaking down all of the key races. I also want to note that we just saw some results coming in, some wins for Texas Governor Greg Abbott, to the surprise of probably no one. But it's interesting to note that he did win. He claims this Republican nomination for governor, as he will be on the ballot come November. This from the Associated Press right now here on Live Now from Fox. But breaking news, Governor Greg Abbott wins the Republican nomination in this primary in Texas for governor. We do have this live picture on the ground. We will see Greg Abbott potentially speak here in just a little bit. You can see that slogan, the campaign motto saying, "Let's roll." A big advocate of President Trump's so far. We'll see what his has in store for the Senate race come just a few short months. As we are looking here in terms of that Senate race, it is going to be a very heated battle in both the Democratic and Republican circles right now. We do know this are the latest results. Latest update, 35% of the votes in John Cornyn, a 5-point lead over Ken Paxton, Wesley Hunt. Like I mentioned again, consequential, 14%. If they don't get to 50%, there will be a runoff. Also, the most recent update is James Talarico takes a lead over Jasmine Crockett, 52 to 47, a 5-point margin right now with 35% of the vote tabulated. So obviously very, very important here on Live Now from Fox for what's to come in this primary, this election in November. So we're following it all very closely. Let's continue on, though, take you back out to our Fox 4 team. They are diving into the latest. Let's listen back in.
You have to run like there are people behind you trying to set you on fire. You have to run, and he's done that in terms of running. But he doesn't want to be the first senator from our state not to be renominated. He doesn't want that as a footnote to his political career. He wants this 5th term.
He's 19-0. You don't want that one loss to be your worst one.
You want to be able to bow out gracefully and retire from your Senate seat, not to be defeated. And so he really wants to win. Will he take it to a runoff? Yeah, he'll go fight. But when you come in first place in a runoff,
it's a lot different.
It's a lot different than coming in second place.
And his critics have been mighty successful with trying to paint him as being sort of out of touch with his base. That's another issue when you're a career politician and an incumbent that's held the position for a long time. Some people just want some straight up new blood brought in, and that could be sort of part of the sentiment we're seeing here.
So this is. John Cornyn got left of the state lawmakers in our state, okay? And so they were after him, and Paxton was the guy to go get him. And we'll see how it turns out. But right now, Cornyn is holding his own.
All right, we're in the witching hours of trying to see when wins become losses and when losses become wins. I hope I don't get in trouble from NFL Red Zone on stealing his line, but we're getting into the interesting part of the night where these results are coming in more and starting to get a little tighter. Look at that, 37% in now. Talarico has taken his first big lead of the night. 52% to 46% over Dallas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. All right, we'll be right back.
All right, you're just listening in there to our Fox 4 team doing a great job, Stephen Dial, with the all the coverage there of politics in that state. So very, very important. And right now, James Talarico leads on the Democratic primary. It's John Cornyn up by about 5 points over Ken Paxton on the Republican side of the aisle. Again, we do know that the Republican governor, Greg Abbott, is already in command of that. He will be heading back on the ballot one more time. You can see this, a live picture from his watch party. They say, let's roll, so we could be hearing from him in just a matter of moments. We're also looking at other different events there here on Live Now from Fox. This is the Talarico watch party. You can see the big screen in the background there, kind of keeping an eye on all of these results. You might hear a little bit of a celebration, some clapping, some cheering when the new results come in, because it was Jasmine Crockett with the early lead, James Talarico taking a 5 or 6 point margin right now here at last check. So obviously very interesting, as polls still open in some parts of Texas right now, as they will not close for a little bit due to some confusion for people trying to get to the ballots, as there's not a unified primary voting kind of location in some areas. So you heard from our Fox 4 team saying El Paso was one of them, Dallas, other portions of this country. So let's just continue on here on Live Now from Fox. We're waiting for our Fox 4 team to come back on air so they can showcase some of their knowledge, their perspective from the Lone Star State. Again, I'm Andy Mack here, kind of guiding us through the evening hours, as on our mainstream. Austin Westfall doing a great job covering the top story, so much to do with the conflict ongoing in Iran. All right, so a live picture right there on the ground. Governor Greg Abbott already securing the nomination, will head to the ballot come November. It was a sizable, almost a 70-plus point victory tonight during this primary. It could be a similar sizable margin come November in terms of that. So we're waiting or watching here for any other events. Unlikely that you'll hear from any of the Senate candidates, depending on if there's a call on the Democratic side, but with a runoff expected on the Republican side, it could be some time before we see any of those candidates come out and speak and share their thoughts, their perspectives. Our Fox 4 team, Stephen Dial, Sean Robb, doing a great job. Casey Stengel doing a great job breaking it all down. So you can see the Texas state flag in the background. They are watching and waiting for Greg Abbott to step out onto this for the time being and speak about what's to come. So we're watching it here on Live Now from Fox. I am Andy Mack. We did hear from Colin Allred earlier on today. He's also in a key race there in that, amid the redistricting effort by Republicans. So it pits two Democrats, two incumbents together in one. So that's a big deal. Also, we are seeing that, of course, other results, including Brandon Gill wins the Republican nomination for U.S. House in Texas's 26th district. I believe it was Tony Nels also as well on top in that other race. Let's see if I can pull that up here on Live Now from Fox of what we're monitoring. But that is also another race we're keeping our eye on. So we could be hearing from some people right now here of what's to come. Greg Abbott, the event about to begin. Let's just listen in here briefly on Live Now.
Hello, Austin. Let me get your attention up here. Once again, my name's Derek Wilson. I am the chairman of the Texas Young Republicans.
And my name is Cassidy Shanor. I'm the chairman of the Young Conservatives of Texas.
All right, we're here tonight to introduce the best governor in the United States of America. The governor who stood up to the Biden administration's lack of a border policy. I'm sorry, they had a policy. It was let everyone in, and Governor Abbott said no. And the governor who provided Trump the blueprint for securing our nation.
The same governor who has kept our Texas economy booming, bringing jobs, opportunities, and success to every corner of Texas. The same governor who has empowered parents, kept boys out of girls' sports, and who has kicked DEI out of our schools.
The governor who supports law enforcement, cleans our streets of career criminals, and has fought to save Texans from the scourge of fentanyl. Now, I know a lot of you in here, these are young conservatives and young Republicans, so at most up to 40. And we know that our generation is very concerned with whether or not they're going to be able to buy a home or be able to pay for their home. Governor Abbott has a bold new plan to put Texas in charge of property taxes, making it much more affordable to be in this state.
The same governor who wakes up every morning to fight the radical left, to protect Texas, keeping Texas, Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, the governor of our great state of Texas and our friend, Governor Greg Abbott.
Give it up for Cassidy and Derek. Great to be with the young conservatives of Texas and the Texas Young Republicans. Give it up for young Republicans in the great state of Texas. Also want to give a shout out to the fabulous First Lady of our great state, Cecilia Abbott, right over here. Listen, I want to take a moment to say a big thank you to everybody who voted in the Republican primary. Thank you for the resounding victory. Thank you for making me your nominee to be your next governor for the great state of Texas. Listen, what we've done, you heard Derek and Cassie talk about it. What we've done is really just deliver common sense. It's just common sense of what we did when we stopped these socialist judges. There we go. One moment. That's what it's been like looking at all the election returns tonight. You got to reload. But here's the deal. It was just common sense what we did when you have these dangerous socialist judges in cities, by the way, like Austin, Texas, and Houston, Texas, who let dangerous criminals out on the street, murderers out on the street. And we said we will not let that happen, and I signed a law that will keep those dangerous criminals where they belong, and that is behind bars. Common sense, like the law that I signed that bans Sharia-only cities in the state of Texas, like Epic City. And laws that prevent our foreign adversaries, like China and Iran, from buying land or property in the state of Texas. And like they were talking about, listen, when Joe Biden abandoned the border, Texas had to stand in the breach. And Texas did what no state in American history has done. We built our own border wall and secured our own border and reduced illegal immigration by 85% into the state of Texas. And yes, we did sign a law clarifying what everybody should know, and that is no boys and girls sports in our schools in the state of Texas. This is just common sense. It's not complicated. It's far more common sense and less complicated than my microphone is tonight. I'll tell you that much. But let me put this in context of what happened just yesterday. What happened yesterday is I received a national award where we won the national championship in America for the Governor's Cup as the #1 state for creating new jobs. Y'all, this is a generation. Some of you may be looking for a good job. I'll tell you this fact. There's no state in America that has more job opportunity than the great state of Texas. We ranked #1 for the most new jobs in the past year, #1 for the most new jobs since COVID, #1 for the most new jobs in America since I have been your governor. And we will continue to be the job opportunity state in the United States of America. But that brings us to the point that we're at now. Where we are at now, between now and November. Listen, this is going to be a battle between common sense versus chaos, where Democrats seek to dismantle all the gains that we've been able to achieve. Look at what they want to do. They believe in defunding our police. They believe in Joe Biden's open border policies. They want to go back and undermine what we did, and they want to go back and indoctrinate our kids in our schools with DEI, and we are not going to let that happen. Listen, they were talking about affordability. Listen, the last thing that we need in our lives is higher taxes. And yet, that's what all of these Democrats, from the top of the ballot all the way to the bottom of the ballot, they've actually voted to increase your taxes. They voted against our property tax cut. They actually voted for a state income tax. And they voted to tax your retirement savings. That is wrong, and we're not going to let that happen because we are going to keep Texas, Texas. Listen, there's a whole lot at stake in this whole campaign. All of those issues I talked about, but something maybe even more important, and that is your values, about who you are. There's one thing that unites everybody in this room, one thing that unites almost everybody in this state, and that is we believe in God over government. We know that in Texas, freedom is worth fighting for, and we know something else. We know that it actually means something to be a Texan, and we are going to stand for what Texas stands for, and we are going to fight and unite, and we're going to win this election. With your help, working every single day, we will keep Texas, Texas. God bless you all, and God bless the great state of Texas.
All right, just listening in there to this update from Governor Greg Abbott winning easily that primary in Texas to head back to the ballot to see yet another term as governor of the Lone Star State. Also of note, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick also easily winning his GOP primary. But some key races here on Live Now from Fox that we are monitoring in terms of what's going on there in the Lone Star State. I do want to put up some of these here on Live Now from Fox of what we're seeing from Texas. As you can see this, a post of exactly what's going on. As I just kind of got a look at it, a lead has widened for James Talarico, 53-46 for this time being. So right now you can see the swap of sorts of these others in the Republican side of the aisle. Right now it's John Cornyn, 43, Ken Paxton, 40, Wesley Hunt, 13%. So we are following it all closely here on Live Now from Fox. Let's take us back out to others, including our Fox 2016. They're diving into the latest. Let's listen into their live coverage.
You know, this school choice is a mixed kind of a bag, but there's a lot of people that got mad about that. But they just keep passing laws that are not very popular with Texans.
And one of the things I've noticed is that these state-level Republicans, they get it from both sides, because there are a lot of Republicans out there who think that Abbott is a rhino, that he's not conservative enough, which is astounding if you try to tell that to a Democrat who just doesn't like the governor because he's a Republican doing generic Republican things. He's found himself in kind of this tight position, and I wouldn't be surprised that, you know, he's going to make it through this cycle, I presume. How many more years can you do this before somebody comes at you from the left because you've moved too far right, or from the right because you haven't gone right enough?
We have some new numbers on the Democratic side here. Gina Hinojosa's expected out front with 62%. Former Congressman Chris Bell, who lives in Chapel Hill now, and 10%. Andrew White, our friend who dropped out long ago, still grabbing a nickel there. a really sharp guy, but he made way, wanted Gina Hinojosa to have that full support. All right, I think we're going to take a break here. Battleground Texas. We'll be right back. We're not done.
Listening in to our Fox 26 team. They're doing a great job covering it all, especially in their location. You can see Hinojosa. She will be likely the Democratic nominee come November against Greg Abbott, and that is an uphill battle against the incumbent there in that state in Texas. So we're following it all here on Live Now from Fox. Let's take us out right now to our Fox 4 team. Peyton Yeager on the mic, breaking down some of those watch parties there. Let's listen in.
A few minutes ago, we did hear some cheers. 53-46, Talarico. All eyes are on that screen behind me right now.
Peyton Yeager, thank you so much. We're going to check back in with you during our newscast later tonight. So, guys, going back to the Republican side, John Cornyn, Patrick said, overperform, whatever you want to call it. Cornyn is in the lead right now. But this does show that there is some Republicans who are not happy with the incumbent, with Paxton having, high 30s, and then Wesley Hunt getting a little piece of the pie, too. Should Cornyn be concerned, or is this just Republican fighting?
Well, it's both. I think, again, the rhino label for the far right of the Republican Party is very hard to overcome. I've had emails from viewers who said in their emails, if no one is running against John Cornyn, I'm voting for no one because he's a rhino. So he's got to overcome that. Yes, Wesley Hunt is the fly in the ointment. Without him, I think the numbers are different.
He has 130,000 votes.
Yeah, you can't ignore that, right? So you can't ignore that. Who's going to get his support in the runoff?
Right. What type of voter do you think picks up those extra votes if he's pushed out tonight?
And does Hunt endorse someone?
That's my point. Who's going to get his support? Both of those men will have to go to him and make some kind of appeal or offer him something. Remember early on I said, what's his exit plan? He's walking away from a protected congressional district to be the third horse in this race. So...
And he hasn't talked as much about Ken Paxton as he has John Cornyn.
Right.
And when I asked him that question, he said, well, look, I'm showing my differences between me and the incumbent, and said, Ken Paxton has issues as well, but I'm showing my differences between me and the incumbent. With him saying that, he was in high school when Cornyn got in office and all that stuff, I don't see him endorsing John Cornyn.
Right. I don't either. Understand that, although politics is a strange bedfellow. But incumbents always have those who don't like them, always. And so that's it. Plus, if you've been there as long as he has, you've rubbed some people the wrong way.
And sometimes people, again, like I said earlier, just want some change. I mean, Ken Paxton is also an institution in the GOP here in Texas. I mean, he has that household name recognition, but sometimes people want some change. And if they don't like the way things are going, affordability, a number of ways he's voted on certain issues in Washington, it's time maybe for a little bit of fresh blood in the system.
I'm still interested in how Collin County is voting.
Yeah, I mean,
it's an interesting
All right, let's go to Davis and Gendry, who is live at the Paxton watch party here in Dallas. David, when we talked to you earlier, we were talking about some breaking news with an arrest, but now Paxton is edging closer to John Cornyn.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people inside of here are talking about at the watch party. And I got to be honest, a few people here I was talking with just a bit ago had no idea that arrest even happened outside. I know really caught us off guard. I told you that I did not expect to be talking about something like that today, but it was around 5:15 when Dallas Police Department got a call about someone who was suspicious. That's how they were labeled, suspicious, outside of the hotel. It was someone who was wearing a mask and who was walking around, not answering a whole lot of questions from my understanding, and Dallas Police Department eventually made some sort of an apprehension because he did not have a proper license plate on the vehicle he was in. Did a traffic stop. The person apparently did not drive off anywhere. He was just in the car. So they pulled him out, did a traffic stop there on scene outside the hotel, and found a whole lot of ammunition in the trunk of his vehicle. That led to an arrest. He's been charged now with some traffic citations, but we still don't know the name of this person. We don't know the circumstances surrounding why why he was out here at this watch party. So somewhat bizarre, a bit frightening for some people, but we know Dallas Police Department is investigating right now, and we're working to try to get more answers. We'll get you a name when we have that, mugshot when that comes available, if it becomes available. But yeah, here on scene right now, I'd say there are probably about 120 people just mingling right now inside of this event for Attorney General Ken Paxton. There was some tight security getting in. We were searched. There were dogs sniffing our gear, and that's standard protocol for most of these events. So you got to think security is even tightening up a little bit more after that incident that we saw outside. I was told earlier that Ken Paxton will be taking the stage around 9 o'clock. Don't know if that's still going to happen. As we know, all these situations are quite fluid. I know there is a speaker list that usually, all those speakers usually come before the main attraction takes stage. And since we haven't heard from any speakers yet, and we're at 8:35, I gotta think it's getting pushed significantly back before Ken Paxton takes the stage. But we'll see. We'll see. Don't know who's going to be on that speaker list. I was trying to get some names, but a spokesperson for his campaign out here told me it's just too fluid right now, and they don't want to commit to letting us know who's going to be speaking if that person doesn't show up. But we'll see, you know, how these numbers continue to roll in out here and how people respond, but obviously not the event that we, not the way to start off this event that we anticipated, Stephen.
For sure, David. Well, one person who won't be on that speaker list is Donald Trump, at least not tonight. David St. thank you so much for your time. All right, we're going to go to break. When we come back, we'll hear from Scott Braddock, who's a wealth of knowledge from the Quorum Report. They're in Austin. I want you to look at the results and
all right, just listening in to our Fox 4 team, John Robb, Stephen Dial doing a great job. And obviously we're following it all very closely here on Live Now from Fox, diving into some of those most recent updates. And I do want to put them up here on Live Now from Fox of what's going on right now, the latest update. 41% of the vote, 43% for John Cornyn. So about halfway home, but this is all signs pointing to a runoff come May. So on the other side, the lead continues to grow for James Talarico, 44%. He's got more than 500,000 votes in the tally right now. So we're going to continue on. We're hearing now our Fox 26 team in Houston interviewing people at different watch parties there, key races across the board. Let's listen back in.
To cut property taxes. I'm the only one on the ballot that's actually cut property taxes. I'm a certified county investment officer, so I have the experience on the public sector side and the private sector side to lead this county back to fiscal sanity.
All right, guys, well, we're still waiting for those final numbers to come in. Any more additional things that you want to say for those that did just say, oh, this is the campaign that I'm going for?
Well, I mean, I thank the grassroots of the Republican Party for going out and voting. It's encouraging to see the numbers this early, so I just want to thank all my volunteers, all the voters, the donors, and everybody that got involved in the campaign.
All right, back to you, Greg.
Appreciate it, Ted. We have numbers in the closely watched Republican primary for District 9. Alex Mueller with a lead there at 37% over Briscoe Cain. This is probably about what we expected. My colleague Jillian Hartman is standing by live at Mueller headquarters. Jillian, what's the word?
Hey there, I can tell you there's a lot of smiles and positivity here. We're at the watch party for Alex Mueller, and you can see here she has a lot of supporters, some police officers, local leaders, community members, plus family and friends, and she's one of two strong candidates for the newly drawn 9th Congressional District, she being the former Harris County Judge candidate, and the other strong candidate in this race is State Rep Briscoe Cain. Now, we just got to talk to Alex Mueller a few minutes ago, asking her some questions leading up to the results tonight, and if she wins, take a listen. What's your message tonight to voters across the newly drawn 9th Congressional District as results start coming in?
Yeah, no, that this is the campaign that will put American families first. That's why President Trump has backed me, as well as Congressman Babin, and why you see so much law enforcement. You know, my top priorities are public safety and jobs. That's what I ran on for county judge, and that's what we're going to execute on once in office.
Now, obviously, this was a crowded and competitive race. What do you think resonated most with voters during your campaign?
I just think the work ethic and the clear priority of making this about public service. You know, you can see I've got a young family. Delivering real results in the district is what I'm fired up to do.
Now, if you win tonight, what will be your top priority for people living in Eastern Harris County and Liberty County?
Yeah, so one of it is making sure our port stays #1. That is the job creator of the region. So it's quite literally the crown jewel of our entire country. And what's better than high-paying American jobs? And so permitting reform, regulatory leave, all those things that, you know, kind of Congress, that legislating are supposed to do to make sure that we are the job center, the economic engine for this entire state and arguably the country.
Now, Mueller's holding her watch party here at the Crawfish Supply in Dayton. I also got some information related to Briscoe Cain. So he's not having a watch party tonight, but he is in Pasadena as the results come in. I just got off the phone with him within the last 10 minutes, asking him those same questions. I asked Mueller those 3 questions regarding this campaign, and if they win tonight, I'll have that interview coming up at 9 and 10 on Fox 26 and Fox Local. Back to you, Greg.
We also have numbers in the District 9 Democratic primary where Leticia Gutierrez is clocking the field right now, including you know, pretty high-profile character in Terry Virts, the former astronaut, who was briefly, I think, in the Senate race. So Leticia Gutierrez leading the Democratic race over there. Okay, let's go to the panel now, guys. Mark, any thoughts on Mueller being ahead, but after the Trump endorsement, thought she might have crawled a little closer to the 50 mark?
Right. She's getting hurt by the support for the other candidates. So people like Steve Stockman and Dan Mims combined, they're probably going to keep her and Cain below 50%. So while she'll finish in first place, she's going to have to face off again against Cain in the May runoff, where the primary electorate may be a little more advantageous for Cain than for her. So she still has her work cut out for her. On the other hand, since she has Trump's endorsement, fundraising should be easier for her and tougher for Cain.
Yeah, Charles, I talked to Dwayne Stovall and Mims and those guys. They're no fans of either Briscoe or Mueller, so there won't be any endorsements there.
Yeah. I've been seen a lot of comments from Dwayne Stovall and others saying that, you know, Mueller moved into the district, that Briscoe has sold out in different regards. But they're the 2 front runners, and I think what's been interesting is to kind of see how Briscoe's relationship with local government and his local officials has played out during this. And so it'll be interesting to see how it ends up shaking out at the end of the day.
I think it's just really funny to think that Mueller tried to win this county-wide seat in Harris County, and I think one of the reasons she lost is because she never successfully distanced herself from that Trump brand. Well, now it's paying off for her that she's got that Trump endorsement in this race.
Bill, you've been a Mueller fan in terms of her intelligence and her background. You know, when you look at the 2 front runners here, why would you see her as a superior candidate?
Well, Congress really would suit her very well. She's a very detail-oriented person. She likes spreadsheets like I like spreadsheets, you know. And I could see her doing very well in Congress on some great committee assignments and being very detailed and going to the hearings prepared and ready to talk the issues, that sort of thing.
But I've got to give Charles Blaine an opportunity because you support Briscoe Cain.
Yeah, I do. And to be clear, I supported Briscoe the second he got in the race, and there was no one else in. But I would still have supported him otherwise because Briscoe's a good friend of mine. I've known him for more than a decade, and I think a lot of what Briscoe doesn't get credit for is the way he stops legislation, because you don't get credit for when bad things don't happen, right? He's very good at points of order and has kind of strategically positioned himself in the House as someone who can use points of order to kill bad legislation before it even reaches the light of day. And so I think he doesn't get the deserved credit on that issue. It's being very detailed and you know, kind of in the books and knows the law and order of the House.
I think when you talk about the Crenshaw-Toth race, because it looks like Crenshaw's in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the numbers, we did talk about it, didn't we? Or did we
well, now with the new numbers, with Montgomery County finally came in, I believe it's I think it's 58-39. In any event, I think Toth has won this race and Crenshaw has lost because there aren't enough Election Day votes to really probably change it. And it's unlikely that the Election Day voters are going to be all that different from the early voters. So we're looking at Dan Crenshaw leaving Congress and Steve Toth Toth going from the State House to the U.S. House.
That's just incredible. I mean, when Crenshaw first got elected, he was a rock star. He was on Saturday Night Live. He was famous. And now he's just getting voted out in this primary for reasons that I don't think are easy to articulate what the problems are with him. He just doesn't resonate with his voters.
All right, you're just listening in there to our Fox 26 team doing a great job breaking it all down. Some of those other key races around the major one for the Senate in Texas. And let's put it up one more time here. For Republicans, it is a 2-point advantage for John Cornyn. Just about 20,000 votes separate him and Attorney General Ken Paxton. On the other side, 45% of the vote already in. And James Talarico, the state rep, up just about 7 or so points right now over Jasmine Crockett, the incumbent representative there, the Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Over 500,000 votes in right now, but that is a big turnout of sorts between these two, including theirs. It's kind of a similar turnout. Lots of Democrats going to the vote, but also lots of Republicans. And we do know that the ballots, the votes, will likely be coming in throughout the evening hours as they had to extend some time due to some confusion there at the ballot boxes in different locations. Let's take you out to our Fox 4 team in Dallas. They're breaking that down right now on LiveNOW.
President Barack Obama versus Secretary Hillary Clinton at that time in the Democratic primary when we had about 3 million people vote. So Dallas County going to be pivotal. But I'll be interested to see when the major news agencies start to call these races based on the fact that so many votes are still out. And there are also problems, as you know, with the reporting from the Secretary of State's office that's been really slow with some of these numbers. And a lot of the number crunchers here in Austin who are trying to figure out what's going on with the early vote they were actually delaying the release of some of their reports and their analysis of the early vote because the Secretary of State was taking a long time to let us know who had voted so far.
Wow. Scott, are you shocked at all at the Republican side for the AG's race? I mean, Wright is coming in third right now at the last check. But there's been a big gap with Mays Middleton and Chip Roy. Does that shock you?
Well, I mean, it's the money goes a long way in these races. You're showing the numbers now: 43% to 29 against Roy. Middleton way in the lead, and he has spent something like he's poured at least about $10 million of his own money into that race, and a lot of that, as you've seen on the airwaves in Dallas-Fort Worth, and we've seen it around the state. Middleton has just been blasting Chip Roy as being a rhino who's opposed to President Trump in some key ways, and that's apparently landing with Republican voters. You remember that the biggest example of Congressman Roy, in conflict with the president and the administration was on January 6th, when there were actually Democrats in the U.S. House chamber who were applauding as Chip Roy was saying that the Republicans in Congress should not try to overturn the election that had been won by, at that time, President-elect Biden. And that applause from Democrats at that time is certainly going to win you some scorn from Republicans in a GOP primary. And the fact that that attack in particular has had so much money behind it on the airwaves and online all across Texas is certainly having an effect.
We're just getting some breaking news that was brought to our attention. The Texas Supreme Court has now temporarily blocked the Dallas judge's order to keep the polls open until 9. So the order says that they must separate out the votes from people who were not in line by 7 p.m. So Sean Rabb has been breaking this news all night with the initial expansion of the polling hours in Dallas County. Then we had Attorney General Ken Paxton issue a ruling, and now the Texas Supreme Court has already ruled.
Right, and so the way it was done in Dallas County tonight is everyone, Scott, who showed up after 7 o'clock, they were given a provisional ballot if they were not in line before.
All right, just listening in there, that's a good key distinction from Sean Rabb talking about how these work into the confusion of the evening on this primary night. Let's take you out to this other event. We do see right now a key race, and we're talking about redistricting in Texas as well, and that has pitted several incumbent Democrats against each other. Colin Allred, Julie Johnson in run race. Another one, Al Green and Christian Menefee, and this is where we're taking us out right now, is Menefee leading against Representative Al Green in Houston's 18th congressional district. A victory would be stunning fall for Green, who was first elected to Howard's 9th congressional district back in 2004. Let's listen in.
What's up, 18th Congressional District? Oh my God, y'all gonna send me to an early grave, man, with all these races. Look, I want to start off by thanking God, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who has been there by my side, covering me throughout this entire race. I want to thank my campaign team, everybody who has volunteered, my parents, my family, my friends, the crew, and of course my wife. It's not often that you got a wife so dope that I had to tell her before this, please don't give another speech like you did last time, because it's hard to follow you. Y'all, we started off this campaign last March, and I was a first-time congressional candidate. Had never run in the big leagues of politics. And with a bunch of people in the race, well-known folks, we came in first place. And then after that, we made history with a 38-point win, sending me to be y'all's member of Congress for the 18th Congressional District. Now, we came out of that, and because Donald Trump and Greg Abbott conspired to redraw the districts in Texas to strip black and brown folks of their representation and hand it over to Republicans, we only had 30 days from the last race to run in a race against a 20-year incumbent. There are parts of this district I have never represented, communities in this district that I had never even been to. And despite all that, because of the momentum, because of our fight, because of each and every one of y'all giving a few bucks, knocking some doors, making some calls, we are in first place tonight. It's gonna be a very, very long night, y'all. But I have a real comfort that I feel right now. And the reason I feel that is because I know that I'm not alone. This race was never about Christian Menefee. It was about the folks throughout our communities who are without health care, communities without sidewalks, food deserts, havens of pollution, where people are living not as long as other parts of the county with more health issues. This race was always about those people. And I know that as we wait for the results to come in tonight, I know that each and every one of y'all is gonna be by my side. And that means the absolute world to me. I've been incredibly proud of the races that we've run. 3 races. First round, a runoff, and now a primary. And you haven't heard me say not a single negative thing about another candidate. The last round that we ran, people got desperate and then they got negative. This round, a 20-year incumbent, getting desperate and got negative. This race is gonna be about the integrity that we have for the future. Not about tearing other people down because you don't want to go get another job. The 18th Congressional District belongs to no man. The 18th Congressional District belongs to no single politician. The 18th Congressional District belongs to the people. And Congressman, you can talk all your trash about me. You can make as many negative ads as you want. I'm gonna keep being focused on integrity, on standing firm, on doing the right thing, and on serving my communities. So Al Green, you can tear us down, but I'm gonna build us up. I'm focused on taking this district to the future. And I will not lose my integrity for no damn elected office. I'm Christian Menefee, and by the grace of God, and with the support of all y'all, I will continue to be your next member of Congress for the 18th Congressional District. We got a long night. We're going to spend it together, but let's do this thing and take the fight into the future. Thank y'all.
All right, just listening in there, Christian Menefee, a strong lead over the Representative Al Green as he earned his seat after the passing of Sylvester Turner, the late congressman, the former mayor of Houston, kind of in the southeastern portion of Texas. But right now, as we are kind of seeing him kiss some of his supporters, some of his family members there on hand, some 68% of the vote is in, and right now it is a 5-point advantage for Christian Menefee over Al Green in that seat. So this is a key race there as we talk about the reshuffling of that redistricting in Texas, pitting two Democrats together. Christian Menefee right now in charge in that race for the 18th district in Texas. The other key potential Democrat on Democrat primary that is key is Julie Johnson against Colin Allred. So we'll see what comes of that. That is also in the kind of metropolitan area of Dallas and Fort Worth. So two very different but major cities there in Texas. So we're also watching what's going on there in parts of the Senate race, so a statewide Lone Star State race, and that being around the Senate, and that is a very key race. The incumbent, John Cornyn, again, as I reiterate, we're just slowly getting it in. Ballots coming in right now, 46%. It is a 2-point advantage for John Cornyn over Ken Paxton, the Attorney General. On the other side, for the Democrats, James Talarico, a advantage. It is a 7-point lead for him over Republican, or actually Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett there, the representative. So this is a key race to see what and who is exactly on the ballot come November. So we're just going to continue to dive into the latest here. We already saw earlier on today some other races being called. We've already heard from Governor Greg Abbott speaking about his sizable victory in this Republican primary. He will seek yet another term, and potentially Hinojosas will be up against him, that being the Democrat in that race. So obviously a strong lead for Abbott tonight. He will carry that to November. Will be on the ballot once again. So that is one of the races that we're following here closely on Live Now from Fox. And we're also monitoring everything else that's going on. Texas, they were expected to close the polls at around 7 o'clock local time. They extended that due to some confusion over primary locations because there wasn't necessarily a unifying spot for Republicans and Democrats. It kind of was a little bit of a mix-up in some areas, some districts and jurisdictions. El Paso, we were hearing, Dallas, other areas like that. So that is potentially something that we are keeping our eye on. But the two big races tonight, Republicans primary for Senate, John Cornyn, the incumbent, as well as on the other side, the Democrats, James Talarico against Jasmine Crockett. And we are seeing another live event pop up right here on Live Now from Fox. I'm not exactly sure what this is about. All right, so let's go out to this other event right here on Live Now from Fox from one of our Texas affiliates. They're speaking about voting. Let's listen into this. You can see there behind them, potentially getting some information from the signage, but let's listen in.
Single polling location in Dallas County, we decided to take quick action. And we contacted our lawyers, who we have on retainer, thank goodness, to put together a motion in order to extend voting hours for every single voting location for Democratic voters only in Dallas County, right? So Chair Coleman tried to call the Republican Party to see if they would like to join in on this effort, because it wasn't just our voters that were affected, it was everyone's voters that were affected. But Chair Coleman got a message from the Dallas County Republican Party that they were closed today. So obviously no one there to help in that regard. So we filed that motion, we got it heard in a Dallas County District Court. The order was entered to extend our voting hours to 9 o'clock. But then of course, Ken Paxton, via his Solicitor General, decided to interfere again. and they filed a motion to dissolve our order to extend voting hours to 9 o'clock, and that order was just entered by the Texas Supreme Court. So, yeah, but you know what? You know what? It is not over yet. It is going to be argued tomorrow with briefs due later this week, and we're still going to make a strong argument that votes cast after people who are not in line by 7 o'clock, we're going to make the argument that those provisional ballots should be cast because we are in the business of making sure.
All right, just listening in there, a little bit of confusion and anger related to some of these voting issues on this key primary night. We're also seeing right here on Live Now from Fox, a speaker up at the microphone at the Attorney General Ken Paxton's watch party. Let's listen in to what they have to say, as this is a very key race, almost set for a runoff. Let's listen in.
Did you guys vote for illegals coming over the border? Are you guys prepared to send Ken Paxton to the United States Senate to represent the state of Texas? Let me hear it. Great. So listen. We've got some time. We've got some drinks. We've got some food. We want you guys to enjoy yourselves. But the fact of the matter is, there is no greater of a conservative fighter than Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. He protected you against Joe Biden. A record amount of lawsuits against Joe Biden, okay? When the Biden regime, they're not an administration, they were a regime. When the Biden regime was creeping up upon your rights, he protected you against Google. He protected you against Big Pharma. He protected you against Pornhub. This is a man who delivers. He is the greatest conservative fighter in the entire state of Texas, and it's not even close. Do you agree? So we are so glad that you guys are here with us tonight as we watch the results roll in. John Cornyn thought that he would mop the floor. John Cornyn thought that because he has this unlimited Senate fund that he would spend almost $70 million and that he wouldn't have to worry about a thing. But here's the thing. Texans are done with the uniparty. Texans are done with rhino Republicans, these do-nothing Republicans who go in, they get elected, and they don't do what they said that they were going to do. And Texans are ready. Texans are ready for a change. Texans are ready for Ken Paxton for United States Senate. So you guys enjoy yourselves. There are a lot of votes to still be counted. John Cornyn should not be happy with the way things are going right now. It's not going as he anticipated. And buckle up, guys, because it's going to be a fun night and a good night. And I'm telling you guys, we are going to call Ken Paxton our next United States Senator. One more time for Ken Paxton. All right, enjoy yourself, guys.
All right, some of the speakers ahead of Ken Paxton. I don't know how soon Ken Paxton himself will actually take the stage, but there are plenty of supporters calling out in support of what's to come, as they will likely potentially head to a runoff if nobody gets those 50% of the vote. And this was the most recent update in terms of polling from that area in Texas, now at 49%, almost halfway home, 43% to 41%. So a 2-point advantage for John Cornyn. Just about 24,000 votes separate the top two candidates in this race. And we are also looking live right now at different areas there on this here on Live Now from Fox, as we just switched to feed, but that's okay because we're just kind of rolling with whatever we get on a primary night in Texas, Lone Star State. It's also a primary night in other states. We saw North Carolina for Senate there. It is Roy Cooper against Michael Whatley in that to replace Tom Tillis. All right, let's go on here on Live Now from Fox, out to our Fox team there, including in, I believe this is Dallas. Let's listen in to them here on Live Now from Fox, their live coverage.
Who was not already in line at 7 p.m. will not be counted. Ken Paxton, in his capacity as Attorney General, asked to block it because he said he didn't get the proper notice.
The Dallas Democrat Party called for an extension earlier today because of confusion about this year's election changes. This year, Republicans and Democrats held separate elections, meaning they had different places to vote, not a joint election. So that meant a change to the normal countywide voting system to precinct-specific voting. Democrats claimed the county elections website crashed, but a lot of voters said they didn't know where to go. Also, a man was arrested outside Ken Paxton's watch party in uptown Dallas. Dallas police say officers noticed a suspicious individual and pulled him over after he got into a car without a license plate. Police say they found ammunition inside that vehicle and say he was arrested for traffic violations. We'll have more on this story and the Republican race for the Senate from David Centenary in just a few minutes. But our Fox 4 News political panel has been watching the results come in since they closed at 7 p.m. They've been streaming on our Fox local channel.
Let's go to our digital studio right now. Casey Stiegel, Stephen Dial, Sean Rabb. Hey, guys, you've been doing a great job all night. Let's talk about those numbers.
Well, let's start by talking about the big number tonight, and that is what happened in Dallas County today with those folks who voted provisional because of what happened trying to find their voting locations. We've heard from Republicans and Democrats, and yet those votes won't count. It's a big mess tonight, really.
It really is, and obviously the reason behind this is, as you all outlined it a little bit, but traditionally in Dallas County, people have gone to the very same location year after year after year and cast their ballots for primaries. That changed this year based off of the Dallas County GOP moving to vote to a more precinct-based voting system for what they said security and neighborhood integrity, and as a result, some information was fed into the websites wrong, and so people were putting in their zip codes trying to find out where their new voting location was. They showed up, turned out that wasn't where they were supposed to be, and then they got run around. So then a court filing came in.
Right. The Dallas County Democrat Party went to court, asked a judge to extend the hours. That judge did so, Stacey Williams. The Attorney General then went to the Supreme Court and said they didn't give us an opportunity to respond to this, and so the High Court has thrown it out.
And this has statewide implications. We know Dallas County is one of the most populous counties in the state, and so for Democrat races, this is really important, specifically on the Senate race for Jasmine Crockett, because this is her home county. She has to run up the score here in Dallas County to have a fighting chance. She's trailing right now to James Talarico, but the other races too. We're looking at the Attorney General's race on the Democrat side, where Dallas County Senator Nathan Johnson, he can get the 50+1 if those Dallas County numbers go in his favor. And so Dallas County can swing a lot of races tonight.
And not only that, but this only happened in 2 counties across our state. Only 2 counties where the Republican chairs asked for separate primaries. Williamson County, James Talarico's home county, and Dallas County, Jasmine Crockett's home county. And both of those counties had problems today.
And what has made it very interesting is here we are at 5 after 9 o'clock, and normally we have a pretty good sense of what the numbers look like because all of the early voting tallies get dropped once the polls close at 7. Since they were extended in Dallas County, where we have a blockbuster Senate race, as you talked about, we now don't have any of those numbers yet. We have not seen any of the early voting tallies from Dallas County, and the turnout we know was really big. We've been reporting on that, leading up to the primary today, but we're talking about a lot of votes that we still don't have in the precincts reporting.
So Dallas County, over 187,000 Democrats voted early. So
and 100,000 people voted today.
Right. So when that drops, we're going to see some changes in a lot of these races.
So pretty historic development that we've been talking about here, and also, just kind of parsing all of the information. Lots of stuff coming in.
Oh yeah, and a lot more is going to have the fallout from this, right? There are some people who will lose because of what happened tonight. They just are.
Jasmine Crockett said earlier this evening that some of these races are in fact so close that it may hinge on who was allowed to vote and who was not allowed to vote. So again, if we have very narrow of margins in some of these races, and then you get people online starting to tell stories, starting to share information that they were in line and they were turned away and they did not get to do their civic duty, which was vote today, that's going to be a mess.
So this is one of the races. The Talarico-Crockett race is one of those races that's going to be whisker close, and Dallas County is going to make a difference one way or the other.
So we're going to send it back to you, Steve and Clarice, from the digital studio. We're going to be, of course, here throughout the night tracking various developments and various storylines, and we'll see you all in just a little while.
All right, guys, I do have a request for your next hit. I was fascinated by what Scott Braddock had to say about the trouble for a Republican who has to go to a runoff and has challenged how often a Republican in Texas gets drilled and does not get reelected, talking specifically about John Cornyn.
On the internet?
Get into that. All right, we'll check back with our panel in just a few minutes. Right now, let's return to the Republican primary for U.S. Senate. Attorney General Ken Paxton, incumbent John Cornyn, and U.S. Representative Wesley Hunt.
Fox 4's David Centendry, as we look at the numbers, is at Ken Paxton's election night watch party in Uptown Dallas, where there was police activity earlier tonight. David.
Yeah, I can tell you this is not the type of live shot I expected to do tonight. Instead of immediately talking about election results, we are talking about a man who was arrested outside of this watch party with a bunch of ammunition inside of his vehicle. So we talked to Dallas Police Department. We're getting some information from them. Apparently, it was just after 5 o'clock when someone reported that there was a man outside of the hotel here in Uptown looking suspicious outside of Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton's watch party. Dallas PD says the man entered a vehicle that did not have a license plate on it, so officers conducted a traffic stop and found an assortment of ammunition in the vehicle. The man was arrested for traffic violations, and police continued to investigate the circumstances which led him to be masked outside this watch party with that ammunition. Certainly a story we will continue to follow, but for now, as for the event, Attorney General Ken Paxton is attempting to do something historic, and that's take down a U.S. Senator in John Cornyn, who's held the seat for more than 20 years, since 2002. Win or lose, Paxton's team tells me we should expect him to take the stage front and center this evening. This is the most expensive primary in state history. $100 million spent by the Republican Party thus far. Senator John Cornyn has called Ken Paxton unelectable, recently pointing to Paxton's very public divorce amidst cheating allegations on his wife, State Senator Angela Paxton. Ken Paxton has worked to build up his reputation, recently having his daughter highlight positive traits about him in campaign ads, including his religious faith. So we also have Wesley Hunt in the race, a U.S. representative out of Houston. Some believe his involvement will lead to this race not being decided tonight. It's likely this race will result in a runoff, as polling does not show any candidate receiving a majority of the votes. And at this point in time, President Donald Trump has not endorsed any of these candidates. If this does go to a runoff, we'll see if things change. I'll tell you that as far as the mood out here, there are about 140 people out here. It's been slowly building. I know there's a private room behind us where dozens more are gathered. And again, Ken Paxton is scheduled to take the stage here probably around 10 o'clock. It was initially going to be 9 o'clock, but things have changed. It's now going to be 10 o'clock. So right now we've had one speaker in support of the current Texas Attorney General and a whole lot of music playing. There's some Leonard Skinner earlier, so we'll see what the DJ has in store for the rest of the night. But for now, I'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, David, thanks.
All right, let's take another look at the Democrat primary for U.S. Senate. This one will not go to a runoff, just two people in it, so the winner takes all, and we'll go into the general election. U.S. Rep. Jasmine Crockett with 45%, James Talarico in with 53%. And I think the Dallas County vote that will be counted or won't be counted will be
significant. Will have a significant role in this race.
How that argument plays out.
Yeah, because it's her home district.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Fox 4's Amelia Jones in downtown Dallas at Jasmine Crockett's watch party. Amelia, what's the mood there?
Hi, Clarice and Steve. We're waiting for Jasmine Crockett to take the stage and address the crowd here at Club Vivo in downtown Dallas. Her team tells me that she is going to come and speak now that the polls are officially closed. We heard from her earlier when that court order first came down that Dallas County was extending the hours for the Democratic primary until 9 p.m. And in that press conference, she emphasized that every vote in this race will matter. She knows that it is going to come down to the wire. She spent her election day traveling from Houston to Dallas, visiting various polling locations along the way, including one here in Oaklawn. Crockett's campaign has been one of high energy, high visibility, and built on the message of her being a fighter, willing to go toe-to-toe with Republicans and energize the Democratic Party. Crockett entered this race as a better-known national figure, and she's received endorsements from music artist Cardi B and a late endorsement from Kamala Harris. So now the big question is, will that fighter message translate with voters, and will those big-name endorsements pay off and pull her through for this primary? She is obviously hoping that those Dallas County votes will make a difference, and when we hear from her, we will be sure to take this on air and online. But it sounds like she might be somebody coming to the stage right now. It appears somebody is coming and the crowd is quieting down. I'm going to step out of the way here so we could zoom in on the stage. And Jasmine Crockett is here. Let's take a listen.
Dallas County should have the second largest voter participation of any county in this state. We don't have any of the results because there was a lot of confusion today. And so, you know, our Democratic Party chair, Cardall Coleman, he beat me to the punch as myself and Colin Allred we're about to file a lawsuit to keep the voting polls open. We were able to keep the polls open, but I can tell you now that people have been disenfranchised. The reason that we knew that there were problems is because we were receiving the phone calls and the emails. The polls were supposed to stay open until 9, according to a court order. The Supreme Court, just a few minutes ago, just said, shut it down. The Supreme Court also said that they are to separate any votes out that came in after 7 p.m. So here's the deal. I have no idea how it is that clerks are going to know who was in line by what time, because the rule is that if you're in line by 7, then you get to vote. And so once there was a court order saying you had until 9, I'm sure that there were people that joined the line after 7. They now are telling them that you have to separate the votes out. What this means is that we will not know what votes are to be tallied from Election Day out of Dallas County. For sure, we won't know that tonight. So knowing that Dallas County is a big dump of votes, we, in my opinion, will not know the election results overall tonight. We need to see the Dallas County votes to see where they are. I mean, if the early vote comes in, which we may have the early vote soon, if it comes in and I'm losing Dallas County, then we know kind of where this thing is going. So, so that's my news, is that we're not going to have election results tonight, in my opinion, based upon what specifically is taking place in Dallas County. Unfortunately, this is what Republicans like to do. And so they specifically targeted Dallas County, and I think we all know why. So I want you to enjoy yourselves, but I won't be back tonight because I have no idea of when we're gonna get results, and I fully anticipate it won't be until tomorrow. So I love y'all too. Thank you so very much for being here. Love you down. I love you down, Dallas.
All right, you're just listening in there. Jasmine Crockett saying there is some bit of controversy around this race, this primary. This is the last you'll see of her tonight, as they are not allowing some of those ballots to be counted that came in post that 7 p.m. deadline, despite some of that confusion about where people should go. They did not able to kind of figure it out in time. So they're kind of telling them to separate. The Supreme Court actually getting involved in this. So very key in terms of this race. And this is going to be a very tight race. James Talarico and James Crockett here, 5-point margin. So James Talarico, the state rep, in charge of this race by almost 9 points at this moment, but she noted that Dallas County, that will be the big discrepancy, and that is potentially would have been likely heavy in her favor. So we'll see what that does. There will be like some legal ramifications to what's going on there. So we'll keep an eye on that here on Live Now from Fox. And as we heard from Jasmine Crockett there, the representative, the Democrat, we also know that this was the location Colin Allred was also at. So he walked up those stairs. I don't know if he's leaving the area, but this is a live picture. We could see Colin Allred here as he has his bid for that district, District 33 in Texas. So he might be coming down the stairs here any moment to speak with them about a similar construct that Jasmine Crockett was just discussing there in regards to this. But for the time being, let's take us back out to our Fox 4 team. It looks like Peyton Yeager has a report from Talarico's area, but now it looks like they're going to weather. So let's shift gears, because obviously the forecast is still a little bit murky of what we're expecting tonight. But for what we're seeing right now, in terms of that Senate race, John Cornyn up on Ken Paxton, 3 points. We already heard some speakers at the Ken Paxton event. Wesley Hunt there. We do have a live picture of that as well, but no image right now of all of this going on. On the other side, we do have James Talarico leading Jasmine Crockett in this race. Oh, and I believe we do see that's Wesley Hunt there on the mic as he is expected to speak there in this Republican race, this Republican primary. Let's listen into this. All right, I believe we just slightly missed it, but sometimes that happens when we're bouncing around to so many different live pictures, and he probably was speaking at the same time as Jasmine Crockett, so it would have been unlikely that we saw him exactly speak. But that 13% that he has acquired is very consequential right now, as it looks like it will be a runoff come May for this race. John Cornyn, 43%, Ken Paxton, 40%. So this is unfolding as we speak in real time. All right, we do see a live picture now popping up there from the Ken Paxton watch party. I don't know if this is a replay because this woman already spoke one time, but nonetheless, let's listen in here on Live Now.
He protected you against Joe Biden. A record amount of lawsuits against Joe Biden, okay? When the Biden regime, they're not an administration, they were a regime. When the Biden regime was creeping up upon your rights, he protected you against Google. He protected you against Big Pharma. He protected you against Pornhub. This is a man who delivers. He is the greatest conservative fighter in the entire state of Texas, and it's not even close. Do you agree? So we are so glad that you guys are here with us tonight as we watch.
This was just a replay. We already saw that woman speak at that Ken Paxton, talking about the conservative values that Ken Paxton is all about. We do see other events, other live pictures right now of our Fox 7 team. Let's listen into their live coverage here on Live Now.
People were getting pretty riled up, and anytime that he brought up his accomplishments that he had achieved, people would, meet with him with a round of applause. And anytime he talked about, what Democrats are potentially trying to do to the state, they were met with a round of boos as well. So people were pretty worked up tonight, even though it was a crowd that was on the smaller side.
Yeah, all right. Okay, thank you very much for that, Marco. Yeah, Cedar Door in Austin is not very big. It's a tiny venue. It's just a primary. He's keeping the big location and the big party for he's hoping the big victory in the general.
Well, he really unloaded, though. I spoke with a lot of Republican insiders for the past several weeks, and they were saying, watch for the pivot. It's going to come right after the primaries, and we're seeing it right now. That pivot, and it's coming hard because the Republicans have been pretty quiet. The big surge has been all on the...
As far as voter enthusiasm, it's been on the
Democratic side. And speaking of that, one of the challengers seeking the Democrat nomination, Austin lawmaker Gina Hinojosa. It is a crowded race for the Democrat nomination. Right now, though, Gina Hinojosa, 62%. Looks like that she will not be dealing with the runoff at all. Chris Bell from Houston, who has tried to run before and get the nomination, the closest contender, but only 10%. He kind of got in late in the game. And then Patricia Rubio and Bobby Cole. Bobby Cole had an interesting, I can reach the rural voter pitch, but he just didn't have the name.
5% isn't going to do it. All righty. Fox 7 Austin's Angela Shen. She has been at Hinojosa's watch party down in San Antonio, and she is there right now. Hey, Angela.
Hi. Yeah,
that even though Hinojosa has those high numbers, she still isn't here yet. Her campaign staff says she's going to show up later than expected because of the extension in polling hours in Dallas County and in Williamson County. Of course, there was confusion about where people could vote in those places. Hinojosa was in Austin this morning visiting different polling locations. Travis County did not have those polling location confusion issues because people can vote at any polling location there. And she also had an election eve rally in Austin last night. Now, Hinojosa is originally from the Valley and was on the AISD school board before winning the election for Texas House in 2016. Her campaign for governor is called the No Te Dejes Fight Back Tour. This morning, she reiterated to us that she's fighting for working class families and that people are tired of the current leadership. Some of her priorities include education. She's against Governor Greg Abbott's school vouchers, which she says drains billions of dollars from schools. She wants to invest in teacher pay and school safety. She also wants to make Texas more affordable and for people to have more accessible health care. I spoke to some of her supporters earlier.
I came out here today, especially as a young person, to bring more awareness to the fact that these primaries are happening and to become more excited and more knowledgeable about what these primaries' purpose are. I think as a young person, it is super, super important not just to care about the big presidential elections.
And so far, we've just heard from a couple of state lawmakers who are in attendance here. There's probably going to be a few more speaking. There's been a mariachi band going for the last hour or so. Again, Hinojosa is going to be coming later than expected because of those polling location delays, but we'll be sure to keep you posted. Back to you.
Yeah, it's a shame that she doesn't come out now because it really doesn't apply to her what's happening up there in the Dallas area.
I think
hey, Angela, it's almost a who's who that's showing up for this this party there for Gina. Have any of the big stars that's shown up, the Castros, some of the other big guys, headliners that were supposed to show up?
I think I'm trying to hear what you said. The two lawmakers that have shown up so far are Bernal and Menendez. I think you asked about Castro. I think he is on the list. There's
talking about the Democratic nominee in that race, Hinojosa. So we'll see if she speaks tonight. But let's take us out to our Fox 4 team. They are
in the County B extended until 9 p.m. Now, at that time, Dallas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and former Dallas Congressman Colin Allred held an emergency news conference to express their concerns. Take a listen.
We have had chaos across our community here in North Texas, as folks have gone to their normal polling place and been turned away, told to go somewhere else.
They not only did this in Dallas County, they did it in Williamson County. Williamson County right now, from what I understand, has not been granted any relief. I am here to say that it is wrong for it to be done to anyone, a Democrat or a Republican.
So the Republican Party did not seek the same relief. That meant the Republicans had until 7 p.m. to cast their ballots. Now, this is not a final ruling, but will certainly make it more difficult to get results from Dallas County in a timely fashion. We, of course, guys, will keep you posted.
Alex, I do have a question. You refer to something kind of, and I think you need more focus on. I want you to do it a little bit. Yeah, if the polls originally closed at 7 and there's a line still waiting, those guys would all move through. The other people heard, hey, we can go down there now because we can vote until 9. Was anybody keeping track of where the line was at 7 and the people who came up behind? That's unwieldy, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's really going to come down to the folks that are tasked with running those facilities, those voting locations, to be monitoring that and then be able to report that back in some sort of process that that would be allowed in this case, and then ultimately know which of those votes should be counted and which wouldn't. But again, I think this is kind of uncharted territory, at least certainly for this primary election night. So we'll have to really see how they go about doing that.
Yeah, because once it was at 6:30 that they found out it was going to be extended, so I don't even know if people went out at 7 to figure out who was in line. Why would you do that if it's going to go to 9? And then a timestamp won't be accurate either. This is going to spend some time in court. All right. Alex, thanks.
That happened to my husband today because he went to the place where we normally go to vote, and that wasn't his polling location. But they did tell him where he had to go. That was earlier. But I vote early, so for me it wasn't an issue, but for him it was. But he did get to cast his vote.
On time.
Yeah, early, way before 7.
All right, so you've heard the nuts and bolts of what happened today. Now to the stories from the voters who say they were turned away from polling locations or sent to some of those wrong locations they were unfamiliar with.
Fox 4's Vanya Castillo's been talking to voters today about those changes. Vanya.
Hi, Clarice. Hi, Steve. Yeah, I watched as about maybe 10 to 15 minutes before 9 o'clock. We saw these doors behind me locked to this polling location. Now, it was supposed to stay open an extra 2 hours, as you guys have been talking about, because of that extension that the Democrats were able to get, all of that being shut down by the Texas Supreme Court. Now, I spoke to a lot of people today who walked in one after another being turned away because they were at the wrong polling location. Now, for the first time in 15 years, voters were not able to cast their ballot at any polling location across the county after Republicans requested a split primary election, which means Republicans and Democrats are holding separate primaries instead of a joint election. Now, a lot of people I spoke with who had been turned away told me they were frustrated and felt like they were being silenced. One woman who came to vote at this location told me she lives less than a 5-minute walk away. When she got here, she was turned away and found out she'd have to walk 35 minutes to be able to vote. A Good Samaritan gave her a ride, but she still got to the polling location after 7 p.m. Now, she did cast her vote because Dallas County Democratic Party Chair Cardinal Coleman filed an emergency petition asking the court to extend voting hours because of the problems voters were experiencing.
If they wouldn't have extended the hours, I wouldn't have been able to vote, period.
How does that make you feel?
I'm upset. I'm angry. Very angry, because this is not right. Because a lot of people they sent away, I guarantee you they didn't go.
Now, even though Smith's vote was cast, it was counted as a provisional vote because she did vote after 7 p.m. after the Texas Supreme Court ruling. As of right now, her vote doesn't count. Now, the presiding election officer did come out and told us that at this polling location, there were 18 provisional votes cast. Now, he had separated them ahead of time just in case there were any changes. But again, none of those counting as of now. Back to you guys.
Vanya, thank you.
Here's a live look at James Talarico's watch party in Austin. Are the lights down? Are they about to announce them? Anyway, it looks like an exciting time. More from that race for the Democrat nomination for the U.S. Senate in a moment.
On in Texas here, there were some very contentious ones, highly contested. So this one has a little bit more impact than a lot of preliminaries.
People are really interested because things have changed so much, and a lot of people would like to see us go back to some of the things that we need to be doing. Every person that is a United States citizen needs to vote, because if you don't, you can't crack.
As far as primaries go, early voting numbers show this primary to have the largest voter turnout in Travis County in nearly 20 years. At the Travis County Clerk's office in Austin, Cliff Thornton, Fox 7 Austin News.
Now the real work begins with actually counting and tabulating those ballots. I'm standing right in front of the election count where folks here, election workers.
Yeah, I do, because it looks like
Well, it's been an interesting evening already. I want to just begin by saying again that the difficulties that North Texans faced in voting today are outrageous and unacceptable, and part of a larger pattern of voter suppression and making it harder for the voices of Texans' voices to be heard that we've seen, beginning with the gerrymandering of our districts here in Texas. This district, the 33rd district, is one that shouldn't exist. A Trump-appointed judge said that it was a racial gerrymander, but it's also home to the places that I grew up in, where I was born and raised in, where my mom was a public school teacher in, and that I know well. And the folks of North Texas showed up, and I'm incredibly proud of them for doing that. Now it looks like we may be heading for a runoff. That's okay. When I first got elected to Congress back in 2018, we had a large primary followed by a runoff, and then I got a chance to go to work, doing what I'm in this to do, which is to help folks, which is to represent the communities that I came from, the folks who gave me a chance to do everything that I've been able to do, from becoming captain of the football team at Baylor, to playing in the NFL, becoming a civil rights lawyer, serving President Obama, and now to go back to Congress. And it's always a good thing when you have the most votes after an election. That's a good thing. Yeah. And we're going to go into this runoff ready to fight for our communities and to fight for working people. It's not right that you should have a member of Congress who's been trading stocks on issues that you're also legislating on. That's not right. For 6 years, I never traded a single stock while I was in Congress because I thought that it was unethical. And I think it is, and it's something we should make illegal. I rely on individuals to support my campaigns. I don't take a dime of corporate PAC money. Julie Johnson has made a very different decision. She's one of the top stock traders in the country and received hundreds of thousands of dollars in PAC money. This election is going to be about who represents the people and who will fight for the people. At a time when our country is at war, when working people feel left behind, and when there's a corruption eating away at the belief that we can do anything at all to change it. That's what concerns me the most, is the feeling that many people have, and rightfully so, that this is a rigged system, one that was rigged to make sure that they can't get ahead. And no matter what they do, no matter how hard they work, that they can't get by. That's my story too. I was raised by a single mom here who was struggling, but I relied on this community, and I'm going to rely on it in this runoff as well. I have a lot of folks to thank. I want to thank first and foremost my wife Allie and my two boys, Jordan and Cameron. They are the light of my life, and they're the reason why I get up every day excited to go to work, to make sure that we deliver a better country to our kids. I know that Representative Bowers will agree with me, and Councilman Bowers will agree with me, that we can't hand off a country like this to our children. We can do so much better. I want to thank State Senator Wendy Davis for being my friend for all these years. Somebody who was my first job in politics, was working on a campaign of hers running for governor, trying to protect the right to vote for Texans here and across the state. I want to thank my incredible staff for their very hard work, for dealing with all the stuff that came along with what has been a long and difficult campaign. And I want to thank the people of North Texas for hanging in there. This has been an election like no other. It's going to continue for a couple more weeks. But in the end, we're going to have a fighter who's going to represent us in Washington, who's going to go there to stand up to this out-of-control president, this out-of-control administration, who's also going to speak some hard truths at times to our party. That's some of the things that we have to clean up in our own house, to make sure that when folks see us, they don't see us as all being part of the problem. There's a lot of work to do. I know Dallas, and Dallas knows me. I'm looking forward to this runoff. I've never been more energized. I've never been more committed to making sure that we talk to every single voter, that we turn out every person we can, not for me, not for the Democratic Party, but for our community, our state, and our country. So thank you so much.
truth is, you can't work from home when you're sick. You need fast relief. Alka-Seltzer Plus Day Cold and Flu Liquid Gels burst into action, relieving your cold and flu symptoms fast. Nothing works faster. Alka-Seltzer Plus.
Are you one of the millions of Americans?
Attorney General of Texas hoping to come out on top in the Republican primary for U.S. Senate tonight.
Now, it's a seat that Senator John Cornyn has held for decades and hopes to hold on to. Fox's David Centendry joins us live from Paxton's watch party in Dallas. David, it has been an eventful day there, right?
Yeah, I can tell you, certainly, this is not the type of live shot that I expected to be talking about tonight. Instead of immediately talking about these election results, what we're talking about is a man who was arrested outside of this watch party with a vehicle full of ammunition. So this happened just after 5 o'clock. Dallas Police Department received a call about a man appearing to be suspicious outside this hotel in uptown Dallas, where Attorney General Ken Paxton's watch party is going down. Police responded, and they say this man, again, just walking around outside the hotel with a mask on, not answering a whole lot of questions, appearing to be some sort of suspicious person, according to police. They conducted a traffic stop when they found out that he did not have a license plate on the vehicle that he was in. And then inside of the trunk of that car, they found a whole lot of ammunition. That man was arrested on some traffic citations, taken into custody. We did just receive an update moments ago from Dallas Police Department saying after being interviewed, investigators determined the individual was at the location to make a delivery to an employee. He was transported to the Dallas County Jail without incident. His name will not be released until he is officially booked in. So we still have a lot of questions because people are wondering why was this person masked and he was outside for the better part of an hour from what it appears. But again, Dallas Police Department arresting him on some citations and saying he was here at least in part to make some sort of a delivery to an employee. We'll continue to keep you updated on this story if we get any more developments, but for now we'll get to the event. So Attorney General Ken Paxton attempting to do something historic, and that's take down a U.S. Senator in John Cornyn who's held that seat for more than 20 years, since 2002. Win or lose, Paxton's team tells me we should expect him to take the stage this evening. We're hearing about 10 p.m., so maybe in about 20 minutes. This is the most expensive primary in state history, $100 million spent by the Republican Party thus far. Senator John Cornyn has called Ken Paxton unelectable, recently pointing to Paxton's very public divorce amidst cheating allegations on his wife, State Senator Angela Paxton. Ken Paxton has worked to build up his reputation, recently having his daughter highlight positive traits about him, including his religious faith, in campaign ads. We also have Wesley Hunt in the race, a U.S. representative out of Houston. Some believe his involvement will lead to this race not being decided tonight. It's likely this race will result in some sort of a runoff because polling does not show any candidate receiving a majority, 50% or higher votes. And one thing a lot of people keep talking about is no one in this race has been endorsed by President Donald Trump. Will things change if this goes to a runoff? Time will tell. But again, right now we have about 150, 160 people maybe behind me gathering. Ken Paxton is supposed to be taking the stage here in just a little bit as some of his supporters are taking the stage with signs right now. But I think you guys might check back with us here in about an hour. But until then, I'll send it back to y'all in the studio.
Sounds good. All right, David Centendry in Dallas for us. Thank you.
All right, a lot more to unpack. Can an 84-year-old John Carter fend off his Republican challengers? Will a World Series champion snag his first political win tonight? We'll break it all down. The Central Texas congressional races next on Fox 7 Austin's News. Stay with us.
Something else. We were supposed to, I thought we were doing 9:38. Guys, do you know exactly how many minutes? Because she's supposed to speak, and then she'd have to come back. Okay, go ahead and speak. It'll be 10 minutes.
get an opportunity to do, representing 32 million Texans in the United States Senate. I want to thank everybody who voted for me, and the way I view it, it's an indication of their trust in the service that I've provided to this great state for many years now. To Congressman Wesley Hunt and his family, you ran a spirited race, and you have a bright future, and I wish you well. We now head into a 12-week primary runoff. Elections are about choices, and the choice in the Republican race for the U.S. Senate is crystal clear. I've worked for decades to build the Republican Party, both here in Texas and nationally. I refuse to allow a flawed, self-centered, and shameless candidate like Ken Paxton risk everything we've worked so hard to build over these many years. There is simply too much at stake in this midterm election for our state and for our country. The final 2 years of President Trump's agenda hangs in the balance. I'm proud to have supported President Trump and worked with him to help him achieve his goals in the Congress. If he's nominated, there's a high risk that Paxton would lose this Senate seat, taking 5 congressional seats down with him. And you don't have to take my word for it. In public polling in the last few months, U.S. Senate nominees are either tied with or beating Paxton if he were the nominee. Ken Paxton as the nominee would be a dead weight at the top of the ticket for Republicans running all across this great state. Over the next 12 weeks, Texas Republican primary voters will hear more about my record of delivering conservative victories in the United States Senate and learn more about Ken's indefensible personal behavior and failures in office. Just like the primary, we have a plan to win the runoff, and we are in the process of executing it. Judgment Day is coming for Ken Paxton. Thank you all. May God bless Texas, and may God continue to bless in the United States of America.
Take a few questions. Jim, you want to start with AP?
Senator, typically a runoff can be a problem spot for an incumbent who's got an upstart. Do you feel like, what do you feel like you need to do to motivate your voters versus Ken Paxton's voters?
Well, fortunately, I've had the experience of winning a runoff previously when I was Attorney General. I won a contested runoff for the Republican nomination then. Obviously, we need to encourage as many people as possible who voted in the primary to come back on May the 26th. Fortunately, Texas has an early voting period, which will allow anybody and everybody who wants to vote an opportunity to cast their ballot early. If they don't do it, then they can do it on May the 26th. I think there'll probably be, at last count, maybe as many as 5 races on the ballot, which will make it much more likely we'll see a robust turnout of voters then. But as I said, and as I think we've demonstrated, there's simply just too much at stake for Texas voters to stay home. And I don't expect them to stay home. I expect a robust turnout. We'll certainly be encouraging that. How did we get here? Well, I like to think, well, first of all, I got a great team. My family, I mentioned, without whose love and support I couldn't do this. But I simply could not in good conscience let someone like Ken Paxton waltz into the Senate as the Senate nominee for the Republican Party for the reasons I mentioned. I think he'll be an albatross around the neck of all of the Republican candidates, including the 5 new congressional seats that President Trump is depending on to win the majority in the House in the midterm elections, which is a challenge given the history. So we will continue to do what we've done and talk about my record of support for the president and his policies and my record of legislative accomplishments. And I would say that, as I've said before, that character is on the ballot. Ken Paxton doesn't believe that that matters. He believes that all of his misbehavior and his scandals are sort of baked in the cake, and he's won a couple of elections since much of that has come out. But there's much more that will come out in the runoff, and which will demonstrate his unfitness for office and his liability of him, the potential liability of him being the nominee in November. I won by 10 points in 2020, and I think I can help down ballot, and I can help President Trump during the remaining 2 years of his term of office after this election.
So, Senator, the president has expressed support for you and also for Ken Paxton, did not endorse anyone in this primary. Do you expect that to change now that it's gone to a runoff, and do you expect it to?
There's only one person on the planet who knows what President Trump's going to do, and that's him. Certainly, I talk to the president on a regular basis. He's got a great team around him of real professionals, Susie Wiles, Chris LaCivita, Tony Fabrizio, just to name a few. And he understands what's at stake. But I understand also why in a contested primary with 3 of us, he didn't want to have to choose between us and disappoint some of his own base of support. And I think he wanted to see me earn this nomination, as we are well on the path to doing, before he made any kind of decision. But when or if he makes a decision and to get involved in the race is entirely up to him.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all.
Night for the United States of America, and an even better one for the great state of Texas. Come on, somebody. So here's the deal. I need to just let you know up top, I'm a pastor first. I'm a state representative as well, but I serve on the National Faith Advisory Board, and I'm incredibly proud to help be a bridge for pastors and federal policy. And let me tell you something. It is about time we get uniparty, what I really should say, uniparty Democrats out of our Republican primaries and get true conservatives to take a stand for our values inside the U.S. Senate. I don't need to tell you, but this is not a political battle we're in. This is, in fact, friends, a spiritual battle that we are in right now. And we have a current U.S. Senator that represents D.C., not the state of Texas. Right now, we have watched what happens when term limits are not in effect. We have watched what happens when someone starts to please the special interest groups over the constituents that they were sworn in to serve. And I'm here to tell you right now, there is no better man than Ken Paxton himself to fight every single day for the constituents of the great state of Texas. Do you believe that in this room? I don't need to remind you that just a couple days ago, our current U.S. Senator said anyone that votes for Ken Paxton is a, and I quote, radical. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty proud to be called a radical conservative that wants to stand against the sexualization of our children, that wants to stand for strong borders. Hear me on this, John Cornyn, if it makes me radical to vote for a man that defended us in court against the sham election of 2020, then call me a radical all day long. I want to say there's no one that stood with President Trump like Ken Paxton. There's no one that stood with everyday Texans like Ken Paxton. I want to share this story, and I had the opportunity this last primary season to travel the state with Attorney General Ken Paxton and help take out some rhinos in the Texas House, which we're doing again tonight, if you weren't aware of. And everywhere we traveled, I got to tell one story, and I got to tell the story of the radical sham impeachment of Ken Paxton just a couple years ago. And I love telling this story. I remember being brought back into the office with leadership. And I remember leadership in the Texas House looking at me at the time being led by Dade Phelan, who is no longer going to be in the Texas House, I might add. I remember being brought back and said, Nate, what's it going to take to get you to to get you to impeach Ken Paxton, our great Attorney General? And I said, all I need is one thing, evidence. And he looked at me, this leadership shill under our current speaker, and said, Nate, We've already given you 176 pages. Said, no, friends, you've given me hearsay. He is going to be proven innocent, and he will be our great attorney general again. I was denied the ability to ask questions. We were given 48 hours, and let me tell you something. When the uniparty comes against you with that level of force, we've seen this story before with President Trump. I will tell you this, that the greatest threat to the uniparty is the greatest threat to eliminating our freedom. And there is one thing, and one thing only, that matters in this, is we need to choose the senator who is going to stand with us and not with those who are paying the big checks to John Cornyn right now in Washington, D.C. I remember looking as our great attorney general was being attacked by the Texas House, and I remember knowing that he would come out on top. I remember traveling the state and watching as he riled up the base to get true conservatives behind us. And I'm here to tell you, there is no greater attorney general than we've ever had for the state of Texas. A man who has stood and been steadfast for election integrity like no other attorney general in the history of our country ever has. A man who has stood with us against the sexualization of our children. A man who has stood for life. A man who has stood for religious freedom across America. A man who has stood in the way of the woke radical left trying to come against us as believers and as Christians. A man who has walked with us, talked with us, and been an ally in every single way. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to see our next U.S. Senator Ken Paxton representing us in the U.S. Senate. I'll tell you this right now. There is one man who can stand up to the radical swamp in D.C. in this race. There is one man with a backbone that's been galvanized, that has fought for us since day one. There is one man that has refused to bend a knee to the incredibly strong lobby that is coming for every single person that does not bend a knee at their will. I will tell you this right now. I will stand with Ken Paxton till the end. I have stood with him since the beginning, because he stands with you and he stands with me, and he says Texas first, not the radical special interests that are trying to take over our country today. There's a plan in Washington, D.C. to create a situation where illegals can begin to vote across our nation. Now we know that illegals are already voting in some of our blue states. We know that there's voter fraud. Why would we choose anyone else to be our battle-tested warrior in Washington, D.C. than the one attorney general that refused to back down and refused to acknowledge and continued to say that 2020 was a stolen election? We have a warrior who's ready to fight with us. We have a warrior who's ready to stand with us. We have a warrior who's ready to run through the finish line. And there is no one I would rather get behind inside of this runoff that we are heading into than the one and only, our next U.S. Senator, Ken Paxton. Can you get loud for our next U.S. Senator? He's going to join us in just a moment. And I have a feeling tonight is going to be an incredible night. One more time, give it up for our next U.S. Senator.
You know, and maybe let's look back to the State of the Union. And the snub that wasn't a snub that was a snub with Chip Roy.
With Trump and Chip Roy.
With Trump and Chip Roy. And, you know, initially it was called a snub, but he got a handshake at the very beginning. And then when he walked out, it was kind of a slight snub. But that negative stuff kind of sticks. And it sticks with people when they go into that ballot box.
Yeah, and there was a lot of negative advertising for, you know, against Chip Roy through this campaign. And they say negative advertising works. All righty, at any rate, we're going to be back with more, a lot more races to go over tonight, including, you know, we're looking at a runoff for Senate, so we'll have that and more and some congressional races as well. We'll be back after a break.
Coming up on 10 o'clock, we're expecting to be about halfway through. We'll see how late we go tonight. But thank you for watching our election coverage.
And our election night coverage continues on Fox 4 News at 10 in 15 seconds.
Listen, you're going to see a lot of President's Day sales.
It has been very exciting for the supporters of Ken Paxton. I'll let John Starling go up with that camera so you can see many of the supporters who are out there waiting on him to take the stage. We're told it will happen at about 10 o'clock. We've heard from his son-in-law. We've heard from other state representatives and supporters tonight as well. They are very enthusiastic about meeting U.S. Senator John Cornyn in a runoff in May, and of course they're hoping to be victorious when it comes to the actual election in November against a Democrat that they will soon be facing off. But once again, we're hearing that he could be taking the stage at 10 o'clock, so we're waiting for him to come out. In the meantime, here in Dallas, there's been some controversy about the voting process, where many Democrats said they were turned away at the universal voting location, so they could not vote. And as a result, a judge extended the hours until 9 o'clock tonight. But then the state Supreme Court stepped in, stayed that execution, saying anyone who voted after 7 o'clock, their votes will not be counted. So we will likely see a legal battle over this issue involving the Democratic voters who feel like they were being disenfranchised. So we're still now waiting on Attorney General Ken Paxton, who is taking on in May. And once he comes out, guys, we will bring you more here from his watch party at the Marriott in Dallas. Isaiah Carey, Fox 26 News.
All right. Thank you, Isaiah, for that live report. Now, let's take a look at the Democratic side for the U.S. Senate primary in the Lone Star State. Right now, James Talarico in with 52% of the vote and Jasmine Crockett in with 47% of the vote. Our Sherman DeSalle is live at the Talarico Watch Party in Austin. And Sherman, how does it look there?
The room's still packed. A lot of people are just waiting for James Talarico to come and address the crowd, especially since his opponent, Jasmine Crockett, addressed her crowd in Dallas. We are anticipating for him to say something along the lines of what is being played out right now, something that what Isaiah focused on, which was the counting of the votes. Crockett made a comment earlier. She said, "I'm here to say that it's wrong for it to be done to anyone, a Democrat or a Republican," but the Republicans didn't have enough sense or enough courage to go out there and try to get a court order on behalf of their constituents, the Republicans, so these hours are extended for the Democrats. But she also made some more comments later on in the night. She doesn't anticipate speaking or seeing a victory tonight, and neither do we, because there's a lot of votes to count. But in Travis County, Talarico's doing really well. As soon as we hear from him, we'll let you know. Back to you.
All right, Sherman, thank you for that live look. Now let's take a look at the District 18 primaries tonight. We have those up right here. Christian Menefee in with 48% of the vote. Al Green, 44. Amanda Edwards, 6, and so on. Fox 26's DeLon Dillard is actually live at the incumbent Christian Menefee's watch party tonight. DeLon, what's the energy like out there?
Yeah, I can tell you here in the past hour, we actually heard directly from Christian Menefee. He came out here, he greeted his supporters, he shared that he is excited, that he is happy, but he also referenced how tired he is. You have to think about this. He has run 3 different elections in the past year. Back in March of last year, Sylvester Turner passed. That is not long after that when Christian Menefee announced his campaign to replace him, to step into that role and fulfill the rest of his term. That led to a runoff election in January, and then now here we are in March where he is running for a brand new term that will start in January of 2027. Again, we heard him here in the past hour. He shared how excited he is about the fact that if you look at the numbers right now, he is in the lead, and even looking at polling numbers throughout this entire time, he has been in the lead. He spoke here in the past hour. We have some of that sound. Take a listen.
It's going to be a very, very long night, y'all. But I have a real comfort that I feel right now. And the reason I feel that is because I know that I'm not alone. This race was never about Christian Menefee. It was about the folks throughout our communities.
Well, you know, John Cornyn said he was concerned about a bunch of radicals who were going to show up to vote today. It looks like you all showed up. I want to start by thanking my kids, my grandchildren for their constant love and support. I think I speak for every parent and grandparent in this room when I say this. Our children and their future are what we are fighting for every single day. For us, this is about saving America for the next generation. I want to take a moment to thank you all and every supporter across the state who has taken the time to volunteer, to vote, to get involved in this critical fight. And thank you to the Paxton Patriots for dedicating your time and your resources to support this effort and help us get our message out all across Texas. Together with your support, we just sent a message loud and clear to Washington. We are not going to go quietly, and we are not going to let you buy the seat. I want to tell you the last time I felt this kind of energy in one room, I was actually at Mar-a-Lago when President Trump announced he was running again in 2024. I don't know if you remember, but it was right after the midterms and everyone was turning on the president. The establishment, the media, and most Republican elected officials in America were lining up against him, not me. I was proud to fly to Mar-a-Lago and be one of the only elected officials in America, along with my good friend Congressman Troy Nehls, who stood with the president the night he announced his campaign. Troy and I, along with everyone else there, knew something special was happening that night. And we were right. Right now, I feel that same momentum, the same sense that history is turning. Now let's talk about what happened, what just happened. John Cornyn spent around $100 million trying to buy this seat. We spent around $5 million. It was confirmed today that he received the most ad support for an incumbent in a single primary in U.S. history. But we proved something they'll never understand in Washington. Texas is not for sale. As votes continue to be counted, it looks like we're headed to a runoff. And that's because of you. The people of Texas made your voices heard. After all the personal attacks, which there were many, and after all the lies, you listened to what John Cornyn was selling, and you weren't buying it. Nearly 60% of Texas voters who have known Cornyn for over 40 years, after hearing $100 million worth of ads, chose to vote against the incumbent. That's historic. Tonight, change was on the ballot, and change won. Texans want new leadership. They want someone with a proven record of fighting and winning for them. And that's exactly what I'm going to deliver. Because for too long, John Cornyn has turned his back on us. For too long, he attacked the border wall by calling it naive and pushed amnesty while our country was being invaded. For too long, he stabbed our president in the back by trying to derail his presidential campaigns and supporting the Democrats' lawfare against the president. And for too long, he sold us out to Democrats, even siding with Joe Biden to push the worst gun control bill in decades. Those days are coming to an end. And now, as we head into this runoff, we're going to make the choice even clearer. While John Cornyn was cutting deals on gun control and amnesty, I was suing corrupt Joe Biden over 107 times. 107 times. And we didn't just file lawsuits, we won massive victories for our freedoms, for our border security, and for our Constitution. That's the contrast. When he compromised, we fought. It's not about personal attacks, it's about what your record of delivering for the people of Texas is. And on that front, John Cornyn has failed us time and time again. I've traveled the state asking one simple question. I've done this since day one, every group I've been in front of. In his over 40 years of office, you cannot name one single accomplishment that he's done to help the state of Texas. 40 years. And without fail, everywhere I go, no one has an answer. No one can name that accomplishment. The people of Texas deserve better. That's the message we're taking into the runoff. I think you all might remember the last time a U.S. Senate race went to a runoff in Texas. It was 2012. A political outsider, not well known at the time, by the name of Ted Cruz, took on the establishment giant. No one said he could do it. And after getting second place in the initial primary, patriotic Texans showed up in the runoff. And you know what happened? Ted, some smart people in the audience. Ted Cruz performed over 22 points better and won the runoff in a resounding victory. The same thing is going to happen here. I've been in 2 statewide runoffs as Attorney General, and I've never won by less than 30 points. And I don't plan on starting now. The victory we're going to secure in this runoff will be even sweeter than the last ones. Now, John Cornyn is going to try to steal the election with another $100 million going into this Senate race. But here's what we proved tonight. While the money may be on his side, the people are on our side. And in Texas, the people always win. As we reflect on this election, I want to take a moment to thank Wesley Hunt for being in this race. Wesley served our country honorably in uniform. And I have no doubt he ran because he loves Texas and he wanted to continue serving our state. And let me say this to everyone who voted. Whether you voted for me, for Wesley, or even John, I'm going to fight to earn your support. Whether you were my strongest ally or you donated to fund the attacks against me, I want you to know that I'm going to fight every day to earn your support, because this is going to be the #1 Senate race in America targeted by the Democrats. We cannot let them take it.
Hold the line.
Our party is a big tent. We don't agree on everything, but we agree on the most important thing. We must defeat the Democrats in November. I want you on this team because this campaign is bigger than one person. It's about the future of Texas and the future of our great country, America. As Attorney General, I've won 3 elections, and I've won those general elections because I've focused on uniting our party. We still have an important runoff ahead, no doubt, but I think everyone in this room, everyone in Texas, and everyone in Washington knows where this is headed. I will be the Republican nominee, and we must stay focused. Because the Democrats have never been more radical, they've never been more unhinged. We've got James Talarico, a far-left radical who wants to abolish ICE, says God is non-binary, I'm not even sure I know what that means, and thinks Christians are commanded to put boys in girls' sports. He will do nothing more than be a puppet for Chuck Schumer and the National Democrats. That's what we're up against. So we must stay focused, we must stay united, and we must be ready to send a second conservative senator to Washington. Ted Cruz has been a champion for Texas. He's recommended strong judges and defended our freedoms. He's fought for us every single day in the Senate. And I think it's time we send him and President Trump some reinforcements. And I'm running to do just that. I want to help confirm strong constitutional conservative judges who will defend our rights, not undermine them. I want to help make America healthy again by taking on big food and big pharma, just like I've done as Attorney General. I want to lower costs for you and your family by cutting fraud and the wasteful spending that's driving inflation. I want to stand shoulder to shoulder with our brave men and women in uniform at this critical moment in our nation's history. I want to go to the Senate to fight for you every single day. So let's finish this, Texas. We have 3 months to push forward, to grow this movement, to bring more people into this campaign before we get to the general election. Please, knock on doors, make the calls, help your neighbors, your friends, your coworkers, get involved in the movement to take this seat back from the swamp and return it to the people of Texas. This is our moment. And I cannot thank you enough for your prayers, for your hard work, for your vote, and for your belief in me. God bless you. God bless this great state of Texas, and God bless the United States of America.
Temporarily blocked that Dallas judge's order to keep the polls open until 9 p.m., ordering the county to separate out votes from people who were not in line at 7 p.m. So let's break down how we got here. The voting issues happened here in Dallas County, and as we've heard, in Williamson County, located in Central Texas, where the elections were split this year based on party. Now, the Republican Party in both counties pushed for a separate election, which meant that there was no countywide voting sites. So these so-called non-joint primaries in these counties required folks to cast their votes at locations specific to their party. So here's what happened. Some people apparently showed up to their usual voting location, not familiar with the changes, and were turned away. Then other voters claimed that the Secretary of State's election website gave them inaccurate locations, causing them to go to the wrong place. Now, the Secretary of State's office told us that there were issues, but pointed the blame on information it received from Dallas County. This all led to the Dallas County Democratic Party filing a lawsuit late this afternoon. A judge agreed with the Dems and ordered that the Democratic polling locations in the county be extended until 9 p.m. At that time, we heard from Dallas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and former Dallas Congressman Colin Allred, who held an emergency news conference here in Dallas to express their concerns.
We have had chaos across our community here in North Texas, as folks have gone to their normal polling place and been turned away, told to go somewhere else.
They not only did this in Dallas County, they did it in Williamson County. Williamson County right now, from what I understand, has not been granted any relief. I am here to say that it is wrong for it to be done to anyone, a Democrat or a Republican.
So again, the Republican Party did not seek that same relief. That meant that Republicans had until the usual 7 p.m. To cast their ballots. Now, this latest turn of events, of course, means it'll certainly make it more difficult to get those results from Dallas County in a timely fashion. We, of course, guys, are going to keep you posted.
All right, Alex, quick question. Those votes that voted after 7, the judge who made that ruling in Dallas County wanted those votes marked provisional, right? That would be in case something happened, they would be able to be separated out and, I guess, presumably put back in. Is that over now? Did the full Supreme Court weigh in on this, the full Texas Supreme Court, or was it like one specific member who halted it?
So my understanding is this is not a final ruling, which is why it's important that those provisional ballots be set aside as the judge has ordered for them to do so that we can see how that legal process ultimately plays out.
Perfect. All right. Good to know. Alex, thank you.
At least the weather cooperated today for anyone that needed to get out and vote. Yeah, it was breezy. Yeah, it was warm. It did not feel like early March. Felt more like May, but it was at least quiet. And you're still,
you know, we have to use scientific and flooding data to fix flooding in Harris County.
Gotcha. All right. Well, guys, we're continuing to see those numbers roll in, and we'll continue to keep you updated. Back to you.
All right, Tanner Radford, thank you. Well, meteorologist Ramisha Shade is in. And Ramisha, it was a pretty nice day. It was a bit windy out there to go out and vote in these primary elections.
Yeah, fairly quiet weather, as long as you could handle the heat. Like I said earlier, you probably needed a bottled water out there waiting in line because it was toasty, near record heat. Of course, we are enjoying the official first week of Rodeo 2026. Let's get a live view of our carnival cam. You can see all of the festive rides out there. Hopefully you'll get a chance, maybe you and your family, to go out there and enjoy this week.
Weather results come in Texas in that very important Democratic U.S. Senate primary between Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and James Talarico, the state representative there. Continuing to watch that, but we've also had eyes on a bunch of interesting House primaries. It's very unusual for an incumbent member of Congress to lose his or her seat in a contested primary, but it does happen, and there's a number of House incumbents who are looking down that kind of a barrel tonight. Allie, what are you looking at?
There's at least 3 tonight, and maybe more than that. Texas 23, which is in the far west of Texas. This is the one in which Tony Gonzalez is the incumbent. He is ahead marginally at the moment by 1,000 votes at the moment, but it's 61% of the vote, and anything can happen here. Tony Gonzalez ran against Brendan Herrera, his challenger, last time around. Herrera came within 400 votes of defeating Gonzalez, and since then
unsuccessful. Now we're starting to see some of the candidates emerging in those newly drawn districts.
Yeah, opened up some space for some other people. Rudy, can you take us through some of the races you're watching right now?
All right, you know, there are a lot of races, and here's what we're watching right now with some of the results so far, and some surprises somewhat. Congressman Michael McCall, he's retiring, creating a vacancy for Congressional District 10. Now, in that Republican primary, Chris Gober right there, 56%. Ben Bias was the biggest challenger to him. He's a known factor in that part of Texas, Central Texas, but coming in at 11%. Rob Altman at 8%. And Jessica Kalshur at 7%. It's been a wild race, and we keep on moving down in regards to some of the other numbers. Can we go to, all right, and then in the Congressional District 21 race, Mark Teixeira, the former baseball player, Washington insider, Elon Musk friend, big numbers tonight, 61%. Jason Cahill at 10%, Trey Traynor at 8%, and Mike Wheeler at 7%. That number for Traynor is a disappointment because he was somewhat of a known figure in his market area, and that people were watching to see how that was going in Congressional District 21. Moving on now, and let's see what else is going on. Congressional District 31. This is one that I was really watching to see if we had a youth movement going on. This is the one involving 84-year-old Congressman John Carter. He was in a very tough primary fight, so we thought, but he's coming in tonight at 58% of the vote, going over that threshold. Looks like he may not be facing a runoff. He had a large number of contenders out there, some actual notable figures. Raymond Heyman at 9%, Valentina Gomez, who has created somewhat of a stir within the Republican Party, 9%. Steve Dowell at 6%. We can move on to down the line down the ballot with some of the other contenders, including Vince Shamlaw. He was challenging that commercial ShamWow guy. He's filed a challenge in regards to, because on the ballot he wasn't able to use his name along that line. Now, Congressional District 35 in the Democrat races on the primary side, Maureen Galeno coming in at 8%. This one's going to be really tight here, folks. Johnny Garcia, 26%. Whitney Masterton Moyes at 23% and John Lira at 21%. So this one still may go into some recount challenges as we watch that Congressional District 35 play out. Moving on now to Congressional District 35. This one was really a tight one and had a lot of insiders watching how this one was going to play out on the GOP side. That's because John Lujan, he is a state lawmaker, and this district theoretically was created for him, and yet he didn't get some key endorsements that he wanted, but right now he's at 35%. Carlos de la Cruz is right behind him right now at 26%. Jay Furman, Ryan Cruz well on back. But these two have been battling back and forth all night long, so it's going to be really interesting to see how this one plays out in the San Antonio area. San Antonio getting a complete reshuffling, somewhat going from 5 congressional seats down to 4, and a lot of those districts slicing and dicing, making it supposedly a better area for Republicans. Now looking here at the Austin area, the Congressional District 37, a familiar face, Greg Casar, hands down really strong numbers from the former Austin City Council member. Not a real strong challenge tonight from Esther Flaherty, but at 17%, and Greg Casar essentially just walking away with this one. You may remember he and Lloyd Doggett at a time looked like they would have to challenge each other because Lloyd Doggett got redistricted out of his area, his familiar seat, but that the big battle between Lloyd Doggett and Greg Casar just didn't develop, with the long-standing Congressman Lloyd Doggett deciding to retire instead of running again along that line. So it's been Rudy, a big night on the congressional side, Mike.
What's John Carter?
I was just going to bring that up. 84 years young.
No runoff. All those challengers, some legit challengers there. And John, he just blew him away.
He did, and what a great night for Judge Carter, because there were a lot of analysts, me among them, wondering out loud, had he overstayed too long, and he came back really strong and pushed back on a very large field without a runoff, guys.
What else? You know, we've been talking about the whole redistricting battle, and do you think that's going to work for Republicans? I mean, obviously we don't know yet. We're going to have to wait for the general, but from what you can see so far, is that going to work out for them, or is that going to be a bust for the Republicans?
Well, you know, it's turnout. Everyone's talking about the Democratic surge right now in the primaries, but everyone's got to remember and catch your breath after tonight. All these numbers, all the big turnout, it's done. It's over with. We go back to a clean slate. And granted, the GOP cannot ignore the big energy from the Democratic side, but those numbers don't mean anything after tonight. And as we move forward into the summertime big fight toward the general election in November, those polls will be really interesting to come out and see, especially San Antonio area and South Texas.
Right, yeah. With the primaries, we're just getting started. All right, thanks for that, Rudy.
Still ahead, election night continues. We'll have more results and the latest on key races when Fox 7 Austin News on this special election night returns.
U.S. Navy Commander William Marks is there with 39%. By the way, Republican incumbent Roger Williams is running in the Republican primary unopposed.
Coming up, we are watching the Senate race. The Republicans are going for a runoff, and we're still watching returns coming in for Democrats. More Fox 4 News is just ahead.
They were able to do that for early vote, which we had all the way up until this past Friday. And then, because the political parties were not able to enter into a joint election here in Texas, if both political parties agree to a joint election in the county, then there can be countywide voting. So that would continue. That had previously been the case. There was not a joint primary this time, so that forced us to go back to precinct-based voting, which has not happened in Dallas County in quite some time, I believe back to 2018. So then voters who had been used to going to any location, maybe close to work, maybe close to school, now were forced to go to precinct-based voting, like I said, has not happened here in nearly a decade. And that created quite a bit of confusion on Election Day.
In terms of the legal process that has played out over the course of this afternoon and into this evening, we initially saw an order essentially that because of a lot of voters experiencing the kind of confusion that you're describing and for the reasons that you're describing, there was an order that polling places should be held open longer than they otherwise would be in Dallas County. And then that order was suspended effectively during the extended polling times by an order of the Texas Supreme Court. First, let me ask you if I got all that right, if I said that correctly, and if I did, can you tell us what that has meant in practical terms in your county?
So yeah, you got that right. You've been paying attention. In terms of the practical matter, you know, practically when you're dealing with massive changes in election rules.
In practical terms in your county.
So yeah, you got that right. You've been paying attention. In terms of the practical matter, you know, practically when you're dealing with massive changes in election rules this quickly, which is not unheard of in elections, but when it's happening and you're dealing with the thousands of workers, at 6 o'clock, all the poll workers expecting, all right, we're going to close at 7, to then shortly after that being notified.
Mayor Ron Nuremberg is challenging for the office, and San Antonio politicos say it's kind of a strange race where the incumbent hasn't really done anything to upset anybody, and the challenger, a popular former mayor, and from tonight, still pretty popular. Both have been arguing to voters over who's done what, including Project Marvel, which is that big project revitalizing Hemisphere Park and moving the San Antonio Spurs to a downtown arena. So tonight, Ron Nuremberg is coming out on top.
And we've got this Congressional District 18. Rudy and I were talking about this one early out the gate. Al Green had the early lead, but here comes Christian Menefee on the comeback with 70% of that vote. 48% leading against Al Green, who, of course, made some headlines during the State of the Union with his sign saying black people aren't apes, of course, in response to what President Trump put out there on Truth Social. So the 78-year-old has represented Houston for about 30 years. 37-year-old Menefee has only been in Congress for about a month, guys. He won a runoff in January to replace the late Sylvester Turner under the new 2025 Texas maps. Both Green and Menefee are running in the same district. Stay with us. We'll have more on election night when we come back.
Wait,
hold on, pause.
Yeah, we're going to hop down to Hays County first and take a look at what's happening there, which is a little bit of a surprise. Hays County Judge Ruma Becerra in a tight one right now with 51% of the vote. Looks like he may just be able to squeak by and not get caught up in a runoff, but things can really change fast late. So we'll have to watch this one with Michelle Gutierrez-Cohen putting on a hard press. When you know, the 51% to 44% looks big, but when you look at the numbers themselves, that's not a big gap.
Right, you know, as far as the number of votes is key here.
And you know, if all the boxes are counted in San Marcos, that's one thing. But if they're not, you know, we could see a late surge with some late boxes coming in along that line. Guys, talking about some of the bigger pictures in some of these races that we saw, I want to go back to Bexar County. Mayor Ron was kind of like trailing at the for a while.
And then he's winning big.
And he's winning big. And that, I think, is going to be a surprise in San Antonio, because a lot of folks who were basically saying, yeah, the mayor was good and all that. But as you said, the judge hasn't really done anything wrong. And then that big number really surprised me.
Yeah. Big name recognition. People just going to the ballot, seeing that name, they're familiar with it.
Okay, and this young old thing, Al Green, come on, let's go. He did some.
You know, maybe are people getting tired of the theatrics with him, and you know, the shaking the cane, and
we thought maybe it was helping him.
You know, early on, Mike, his numbers came out strong. He won the early vote big.
Right.
So it was a strange animal down there, and I don't think it's over yet.
Yeah. Okay. Still young. We're continuing our special coverage of these 2026 primaries.
Let's take another look at one of the biggest races we're watching. John Cornyn with 42.5% of that vote. This is going to a runoff as we expected. Rudy's been talking about this for 6 weeks now, even longer than that. Wesley Hunt still trailing there with 13%. We did hear from both Cornyn and Paxton tonight. Paxton really trying to showcase his friendship with President Donald Trump.
This is all going to be about turnout, and runoffs are always about turnout. Who's going to get the base motivated to come out? And granted, we may have a lot of runoffs on the ballot to help try to tap into that, but I think that advantage goes to Paxton because his base is extremely motivated.
Right.
But don't count the senator out.
You know, look, 203,000 votes for Wesley Hunt, and where are they going to break, and how are Cornyn and Paxton going to go after those voters? And that's going to tell the tale on this thing.
Yeah, will Hunt play kingmaker, or will Hunt just kind of back out and wait?
Right. And who knows, there's always Donald Trump who can step in at any moment. But
and we heard last night, and sources have been talking to us, Stephen Dial, Greg Grugan, in our Battleground segment, that Cornyn's got something. He's got one more little grenade to throw. And he kind of teased that. The senator kind of teased that tonight.
All right.
He did.
Meredith Aldis has been standing by. She's been covering John Cornyn, not really a watch party going on over there. It looks like there's nobody there left,
the library there.
Are you going to turn out the lights there, Meredith?
They're trying to kick me out, but we are still here. No, but I will agree with Rudy. Like you said, kind of teased maybe a grenade coming. I think, in fact, he did that during his speech. But yes, a runoff, it is expected. John Cornyn expected it as well. He took the podium in the last hour. He thanked his family. He also thanked the people that voted for him. He said it shows that the voters trust him. He also took some jabs at Ken Paxton. He said, quote, "I refuse to allow a flawed, self-centered candidate like Ken Paxton win a seat we spent so long building." He also said that if Ken Paxton is the nominee, there's a high risk of losing this seat, and this is a seat that's been red for so many years. So Cornyn also pointed out the fact that it would be taking 5 congressional seats down with him. He also called him dead weight for Republicans, and I think we have some sound of some more about Cornyn talking about Paxton.
Character is on the ballot. Ken Paxton doesn't believe that that matters. He believes that all of his misbehavior and his scandals are sort of baked in the cake, and he's won a couple of elections since much of that has come out. But there's much more that will come out in the runoff, and which will demonstrate his unfitness for office and his liability of him, the potential liability of him being the nominee in November.
Cornyn said he does have a plan to win the runoff. That runoff will be in May, and then the general election will be in November. They will go, either Cornyn or Paxton will go against Talarico or Crockett. And y'all, I am the last one standing here, so I'm going to send it back to you.
Meredith, thank you.
Great work,
Spending this time with us to help us understand what's happening there. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. I should say that in Texas, we are seeing some counties starting to post their